Welcome in, everybody. Happy NFL Draft Night on the On Texas Football Channel. Our second year doing the watch along for the NFL Draft. Longhorns set to make some history tonight. Very good chance and almost a certain chance that three Texas Longhorns will hear their name tonight in the first 32 picks, the first round of the draft, maybe even the first 20 or 25 picks, which hasn't happened since 1980. Which, you guys are where we were all alive for that, but man, it's been a minute. It's been a long time. 1980, last time the Longhorns had three players drafted. And gosh, when Kelvin Banks goes off the board, guys, it'll be the first offensive lineman in the first round since I think 2002 with Mike Williams. So
Mike Williams
kind of goes the state of the program. It's Aaron Hogan, Jerry Hamilton, Bobby Burton, Rod Babers will join us. Also, C.J. Vogel will join us, of course, and a couple maybe very special guests will join us here. And maybe in this first hour, a Longhorn who was drafted in the first round out of Texas back in the 2000s might jump in and say hello on draft night. So we're excited to bring you the coverage, go pick by pick, when the Longhorns go off the board. Guys, let me start with this. Who do you think is the first Longhorn who will hear his name tonight between Kelvin Banks, Jahdae Barron, or Matthew Golden?
I think it's going to be Kelvin Banks because I think people have been playing games, and I think there's going to be three offensive tackles that are seen as real top 10 level picks, and I think they're all going to be gone, all from the SEC.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think it's Kelvin. I think it's Kelvin Banks as well, guys. A lot of late mock drafts, by the way, have him going pegged to go to the Las Vegas Raiders, excuse me. And that looks to be like a consensus at this point, actually. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see. The big deal there, though, is what Aaron made and what Aaron talked about. Oh, here's Rod Babers joining us a little bit here, too.
What's up, fellas?
Rod B's here. We're talking about this. Hey, since 2002, since Texas has had a first-round offensive lineman. I mean, Tony Hills comes on with us every Wednesday morning, guys. He's an NFL offensive lineman. He wasn't a first-rounder, though. You think guys like Tony Hills don't take that a little bit personal? The former Texas offensive linemen that haven't had a first-rounder in that amount of time. So happy that this is happening for Kelvin Banks. There has been no person or no player on the offensive line more deserving of it than Kelvin Banks. I mean, we talked about this. He came in from the very first minute he was on camp. He became a starter, the second day of practice or the second week of practice when he arrived on campus, Jerry and Rod and Aaron. So if anybody deserves it, it's Kelvin Banks. Congratulations, hopefully. To him here.
That would be awesome. And I agree with you guys. He's probably going to hear his name first. And Jerry, what you said, I think, is spot on. By all accounts, after the top three or four tackles, the draft really drops. I mean, if you're looking for a tackle, you got to get him pretty early. And maybe there's not a Joe Thomas or a Orlando Pace in this draft, but there, Will Campbell from LSU, Kelvin Banks from Texas, and the kid from Missouri, Membao. I mean, these are good players. And if you're looking for tackle, you can get a receiver, you can get a running back, you can get some other positions later in this draft. But man, tackles very, very difficult to find, especially as good as Kelvin Banks is. And Sark was talking about it on Tuesday, Rod, that people play games. People they're pushing. We talked about when he was with the Oakland Raiders back when he was 29 years old. Specifically trying to push out good stuff on a player that you're not going to take to kind of make the teams ahead of you think you're thinking that. You're leaking information. I mean, that's the whole, smokescreen season. I think at the end of the day, you come back to really good football players. And the Longhorns have three really good football players here who are going to make teams better, starting with Kelvin Banks probably here in the top 10, 12 picks.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the Kelvin Banks thing is so crazy. And to your point about, maybe the misinformation that was being thrown out there, because we talked about it on a lot of our shows and a lot of the mock drafts, and I'm kind of a mock slut, so I'll look at any mock draft. Yeah. Kelvin Banks was dropping in a lot of the mock drafts in, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and a lot of things were trending toward another Longhorn, Jahdae Barron probably being the first Longhorn drafted. And now I think Lance Zierlein had his latest mock draft earlier today, had Kelvin Banks as the number 6 overall pick to the Raiders. And then I saw Blake Monroe tweet out the odds of Kelvin Banks right now of being drafted to the Raiders are the highest of any player, that kind of thing. So I think that makes sense that it starts there for him. And I went and gathered up some of the intel before the draft, just looking at what teams would be interested in inquiring about, a franchise left tackle who were starting at number 6. And I mean, you have number 6, the Raiders, of course, the Saints, of course, as well. The Bears have been brought up, and the 49ers. So I just don't think, because of all that I don't know if he makes it out of 15. If he does, if he drops past those teams I just brought up, if he drops past the Raiders at 6, Saint and the Raiders, I said they can go a number of different ways, but franchise left tackle seems, obvious. But the Saints, the Bears, and the 49ers, if he drops past those teams, my Houston Texans,
Yeah.
Nick Caserio, and this is a franchise more than any other. And you're a Texans fan too, so you know this. They are overhauling the entire culture of their offensive line. They know they got a franchise quarterback that's done. They've been really good about trying to bring weapons around him, but the offensive line has been an absolute fustercluck. I went and looked it up. If you go look at Nick Caserio, he's made at least 3 draft day trades every year. And he's made more trades than any other GM in the NFL since he took over for the Texans. He loves guys who are from the Houston area. He's on the record for saying it. He's saying, I think it's another data point in actually having pride in where you are from and what you're representing the franchise of the city, where you're from or the area you're from. And so I actually don't know if Kelvin Banks was a Texas fan, but we know he's from H-Town. And so that's another added element. If he drops past 11, or the 49ers are at, 49ers are 11, if he drops past them, I guarantee you, Caserio, as they call him, because he's always cooking up a deal, he's going to go up and go get him. He's going to go get him.
That's the one thing about this draft. That Adam Schefter is predicting a lot of trades in the first round.
I totally agree, because I think there's 4 or 5 elite players. We know that. And then Cam Ward's going to go number 1 here to the Tennessee Titans, who are now on the clock on our On Texas Football watch along, live coverage, pick by pick. But once the elite players are off the board, it's the guys are kind of graded the same from number 6 to number 25. So teams looking to trade back, beauty in the eye of the beholder kind of draft here. And I agree with you, Rod, 100%. You call him Cooks Caserio. I call him Trader Nick. Nick will be looking to come up. They want 3 guys. Houston is looking at Kelvin Banks with 100%. He's from Summer Creek down there in the Humble Atascocita area. Would change the culture in that locker room quickly. They also like Tyler Booker from Alabama and Gray Zabel, the guard from North Dakota State. They don't think if they sit at 25 that they'll get either of those 3 players. And I would say this for the Dallas Cowboys fans out there, at 12, the Cowboys could take any of these 3 Longhorns and it would be a home run pick for them. Kelvin Banks, if he's there at 12, to play tackle, because Tyler Guyton struggled last year. Terrence Steele isn't great at right tackle. They're not great anywhere there. Jahdae Barron would be a great pick, opposite Duron Bland, and Matthew Golden playing opposite CeeDee Lamb. Any of those 3 Longhorns to the Cowboys would be huge. But I know we'll get from the chat that Jerry Jones doesn't draft Longhorns. He did with DeMarvion Overshown a couple of years ago. So maybe there's some push there. But I like all 3 of those guys to that spot. Let me ask you this, Jerry, because you're down there in Friendswood. You're down there in South Houston. The story of Cam Ward from tiny little West Columbia, not far from you, 3A school, no offers out of high school, 0-star, while guys like DJ Uiagalelei are 5-star players. This guy's going to be the first pick of the draft. It's such a cool story.
It's actually, I'm very lucky on this one. I kind of told some of it on Coffee and Football this morning, but his dad reached out to Steve Van Meter, longtime head coach at Friendswood High School, who then went on to go to Hutto and Pflugerville Weiss. Van had retired from Friendswood and was in between. I can't remember the exact timing of it. But he had retired from Hutto, was in between jobs, and because he was a retiree hire. Well, he played for my dad at Friendswood. So I have real knowledge on this. And the funny thing about Cam Ward was, Cam Ward played in more of a wing T type of system in high school. His only other offer was Texas Southern, as you said, no D1s. And Coach, I call him Van. Coach Van told me, he said, this kid's got a live arm. He said he has a long way to go, but he has a live arm. But the crazy thing about his journey was Cam Ward played 2 years at Incarnate Word. And then he was looking to transfer portal up, right? And he ended up at Washington State. But this is just funny how this all works out, guys. Van Meter knew, I think it was Coach Dickey that was the OC on the A&M staff, and called and said, hey, man, I hear y'all are looking for a quarterback. Y'all might want to take a look at this Cam Ward kid. He's got a chance to be really, really good. And Jimbo Fisher called back and said he's not good enough.
Wow.
Now, we're going to have fun with Jimbo on this because it turns out they needed one. But he ended up at Washington State, so none of the big schools took him at the time. But it's kind of funny how that worked out, that the guy that trained him, who was one of the better offensive coaches in the Houston area for years and years, had D1 quarterback after D1 quarterback, tried to tell Jimbo Fisher, here's your guy. And he said, nah, not good enough.
Yeah. Well, and also he camped at A&M, and he camped at Texas State before when he was in high school, and they didn't notice it. It was just one of those, camp enrollees out of West Columbia, which is a tiny little 3,000 person town, not far from you, Jerry. And what a story. And yeah, I mean, the Aggies missed on him twice potentially. And it's just a cool story. And Eric Morris, his coach at Incarnate Word, guys, went to Washington State as the offensive coordinator. That's how he brought him with him.
Yes.
And Eric Morris also, Rod and Bobby recruited a kid named Patrick Mahomes out of East Texas that didn't have a lot of offers when he was a assistant coach at Texas Tech. So now it's Cam Ward and Patrick Mahomes, another Texas quarterback going number one. And Rod, we're Texans fans, so I hope the best for the young guy, but I don't want him to be too good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's Mahomes. He's in our division now.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, I like him. I don't love him. That's how I feel.
I'm the same way.
Right? I like him. I don't love him. But the truth is this, and I've always said this about quarterback. I believe it to be true. You've heard this.
Yes.
I don't think, honestly, the truth is most franchises, they don't know what the hell they're doing when it comes to quarterback. I think they really don't. And honestly, the draft and talent acquisition will prove that. There are a few organizations that do. The Packers are probably one. The Packers they have a formula they figured out for their organization that works. I like what Andy Reid has done. Andy Reid's kind of one of those guys right now that, he kind of knows what to do at quarterback, how to maximize it. There are a few guys. I mean, Sean McVay in that category too. But when you know what to do at quarterback, or at least that is a perception that you're a quarterback guru, quarterback nurturer, you become a made man, right? That's how Sean McVay became a made man. That's how, Kyle Shanahan became a made man. That's how Ben Johnson now is a made man because of what he did with Jared Goff. Like that's how you do it in the league. And I still don't really know if any of those guys are actually, elite quarterback gurus, or if they just kind of lucked out. But the truth is, the best thing to do is to keep giving yourselves opportunities, right, to hit on the quarterback position. And now that the Titans are in this position, you got to take the best quarterback available. You got to.
While the pick is actually made, I got a question, Bobby and Rod, Aaron.
Hold on 1 second. Let's get Derrick Johnson here, guys.
Whoa!
Is Derrick with us?
Yes,
Look at his special guest on the On Texas channel. There's our guy, Derrick Johnson, jumping on in here. Cam Ward is the pick of the Tennessee Titans out of West Columbia, Texas, and the University of Miami, his third school, and the Titans. We'll talk more about that. Derrick Johnson, you were a first-round draft pick back in your draft in the day out of the University of Texas, early 2000s. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How y'all doing?
Good.
Great.
Is that a Chiefs hat you got on there, Derrick?
What do you say?
Is that it? Yep. Chiefs Kingdom. There we go. I like that.
Nowadays, my Chiefs get the last pick in the first round, so it's not as exciting to me anymore.
Hey, Derrick, I've always wanted to ask you this question. This is the perfect time. What was draft day like for you? What were your emotions like? Where did you think you were going to go, and how did it kind of all play out?
Oh, we lost him there for a little bit. He may pop back on.
Yeah. He may have got a phone call.
We'll get DJ back with us. He'll just have to maybe Matthew, just tell him to relog in, and you look like the connection was a little fuzzy too. But Cam Ward is the pick.
Yeah, the question.
Real quick, and we'll get DJ back. I want to hear that answer to that question. But number two on the clock.
Ask y'all on Cam Ward. Oh, DJ's back. Okay, we'll get DJ.
Right.
Hey, DJ, what was your draft day like, my friend?
Well, my draft day is a little different back in the day. See, everybody comes up to the draft to the draft to the actual site now. But back in the day, it was only 5 or 6 or 7 people, and there were only one defensive player that went that year, and the others 6 of them were offensive players. So a lot of us were at home, which I kind of wanted it that way actually, because I got a chance to be around my family and friends, my mom, and just all that hoopla going on, and being able to be in my environment. And I actually I was going to be picked from 10 to 15 during that time, and I really thought Houston was going to get me at 13, but Detroit was at 10, and Kansas City had already told me. I had went to a visit there, and I asked him, like, hey, I was at that time I was predicted to be pretty high, and Kansas City was like, man, I don't think we're going to get you. Dick Vermeil said, he was like, you know what, we're going to if you're there, we will take you, but we don't think you'll be there. And you just never know in the NFL. You never know in the draft how things shape out. And I tell you what, I just kind of kept sliding a little bit. And at the time, I was like, man, what is going on? But now that I think of it, it worked out for the best. And Kansas City picked me up at 15, and that was the best decision. I stayed there for 13 straight years.
Yeah, and you're in the Hall of Honor there, Hall of Fame with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Kingdom. Real quick, just for the update, the Jacksonville Jaguars have traded up to number 2 with the Cleveland Browns. They're going to probably take Travis Hunter, the Florida native, the 5-star kid out of Florida originally, went to Jackson State, and then to obviously Colorado, and won the Heisman Trophy this year. So Jacksonville, they've given up their number 5 pick this year, 3 picks later, plus their number 2 this year and number 1 next year, plus some other draft trade compensation. The young general manager, they're trying to make a splash, going up to get Travis Hunter. As you just said, Derrick Johnson, you never know. Yep. You never know what's going to happen on draft night. Here comes Jacksonville going up probably to take Travis Hunter. We'll tell you when that comes down. Hey, Derrick, let me ask you about these 3 Longhorns that we're going to hear tonight, most likely. I mean, just as solid young guys you can find in Kelvin Banks and Matthew Golden and Jahdae Barron. I know you'll be proud with your Chiefs Kingdom, but also for the Longhorns tonight to have 3 guys go off the board and 3 really high character, good football players.
Yeah, Sark has done a great job by bringing just high caliber, high character guys here to the University of Texas, and we're just, man, we're loading up the last couple of years. It's been a record how many Longhorns have been drafted to the NFL, and this year will be no different. It's pretty exciting to see these young guys make their dream comes true. Just because, think about it. There were little kids saying, hey, one day we're going to be in the NFL. Like, one day I want to go to the NFL. And it's far-fetched, right? But today's that day, and it's pretty exciting. And when you talk about Barron, when you talk about Matthew, how he just jumped off the board. I mean, he wasn't supposed to be a first-rounder at the beginning of the season. Going to be a good player, obviously, but a first-rounder, that would have been a little bit of a stretch. But not right now. Right now, that's not a stretch at all. That's the reality. And then you got Banks. Big Bank, he's going to do well. Very high character guys. These guys, they just do the right thing, and Sark did a great job by picking these guys up.
I think back to something you just said, Derrick, a minute ago about how your draft day party went with your parents and stuff. I was told earlier today that Jahdae Barron's having a big party tonight over at Pflugerville. He's supposed to be having a big party with a lot of current Longhorns on their way to his house tonight. So Matthew Golden, obviously in Green Bay tonight. That's great to see. Kelvin Banks, I think, at his house.
Yeah. Well, he's the DB. He's got to do it right. Yeah.
Rod probably had a big party too.
I did. No, I wouldn't get. I knew I wouldn't get drafted that high, so we wouldn't have fun. It was intimate with the family, me and the family.
Took too long, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
can I ask you about something though, really quickly, because we were doing some research and trying to find the last time you had 3 returning All-Americans at every level of the defense for Texas. Colin Simmons is an All-American on D-line. You got an All-American at the linebacker position. Anthony Hill might be the best linebacker in the country. And Colin Simmons, same thing. Michael Taft returning in the secondary. Turns out one of the last times was 02.
Yeah, come on.
It was you was returning as kind of a freshman All-American at I believe Corey Reddy returning he had an All-American and Nathan Vasher.
Man.
It doesn't happen very often when you have guys return of that caliber at all have been playing at a high level. Talk about how you think the defense can be this year, how good you think the defense can be this year for Texas, considering they have elite players at every level.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you have high caliber players, All-American players coming back, especially when you talk about Colin Simmons and what he brings to that edge of the defense, probably the most important positions on the field, taking down the quarterback, being able to apply pressure and affect the quarterback. That's always great for your defense. And then Anthony Hill is, man, a beast. I mean, he can rush the passer, he can tackle, he can catch interceptions, he can do all that. And then you got Taft, who's freaking smart as a whip. Every level we have All-Americans return. I'm looking for them to do well and bring along other young guys or transfer portal guys with them so we can have another top 10 defense again.
Hey, Derrick, I've never asked you. Obviously, a lot of people always ask you about Anthony Hill because you're a great linebacker, right? And Anthony Hill wants to follow in those footsteps. I want to ask you about Colin Simmons because you see him a lot. You're at the I see you at the practice field every media window. What were your initial impressions of him, and where is he kind of at now for you? Like, I mean, you went 15th, and I don't know if you're going to be in the NFL Hall of Fame or not, but there's an argument to be made you should be.
Man,
I see from Colin Simmons, man. I mean, I think the guy may be the best defensive player in college football this year.
You know what? He might be. He might be. He looks just like, and I always tease him whenever he walks by me. I'm like, man, he looks just like Anthony Hill. Like both of them, like statue, just their demeanor. Like those are super active guys on defense, and they look just like. I always kid them and say that they're cousins or whatnot. But Colin Simmons, man, you talk about speed off the edge. You talk about somebody that can still get better. He hadn't peaked yet. So I mean, he hadn't got a whole toolbox of rushing a passer. Right now, it's all speed rush, right? And when you can get a toolbox and saying, hey, I can speed rush, I can speed to power, or I can power you. Man, offensive tackles are going to be scratching their heads, and quarterbacks are going to be running from them, throwing interceptions to Taft or to Anthony Hill coming down the barrel. But Colin Simmons, you talk about somebody that's just the sky's the limit for him, and he's got a mean streak to him. All these guys that we're talking about, All-Americans that's come back to the University of Texas, they have that edge. You got to have that edge. That's kind of the secret sauce in being really, really good. You got to be a high character guy and do the right things and not get in trouble and do all that stuff. But when you're on that freaking football field, you got to be a savage.
Yeah, they are.
Hey,
Derrick, let me ask you. Travis Hunter is the pick, and he's strutting and dancing in his pink jacket. He is the pick. He's staying in his home state, originally in Florida, going to Jacksonville. The bold move by the Jaguars. You played in the National Football League, and people have talked a lot about playing two ways and trying to play two positions. Is that, in your mind, is that possible? I mean, I know he's a freak, he's a unicorn, but man, that to prepare for two positions, to in the physicality and the speed and the talent of that level, is that possible to play two positions in the National Football League in your mind?
It's possible, and he is a unicorn. I'm glad you said that. Travis Hunter is just a little different kind of breed. I think he's gonna make his I'm speaking things into existence, but I think he's gonna make a Hall of Fame career out of being a cornerback. But he's gonna have that ability to take the top off or be that specialty receiver that you need on offense, and you can plug him in at any time. Those type of players don't come around much. I mean, they're literally not around. It's just hard to do, right? Somehow he wakes up on a different side of the bed than everybody else, and you kind of got to play him both ways. And now it wouldn't be full time. Obviously, he wouldn't be able to pull out 100 30 or 40 plays every week, but being able to give some receivers some spills or be able to make a little package for them offensively, or when you get in the red zone, I mean, that's a headache for a defensive coordinator. So he's a great pickup. Great pickup.
Yeah. Jacksonville making the move. Rod, you're the DB in the room. I mean, you're in this conversation. I mean, he comps to kind of a Champ Bailey as a corner, and then maybe Chad Ochocinco as a wide receiver. I've seen that comp a lot for him. Chad Johnson out of Oregon State. I mean, that's pretty lethal. When you have a guy that can do that much for a football team, and Jacksonville has made the move. Trevor Lawrence, I'm pretty happy with Brian Thomas on one side from LSU, and now Travis Hunter, and he can play defense for you.
Yeah, I don't know which one they start him on. That's the question. I'm sure we all probably got different opinions. Yeah. I would start him on defense and let him get offensive, a package or two offensively. That's how I would go. But I'm sure Jerry, Bobby, everybody's got a different opinion. I mean, Derrick, DJ, where would you start him? Like, what's offensive defense? Where would you start him? And would you let him play both ways is the question.
Yeah, I would start him on the defense side of the ball, and I would give him some spills on the offensive side of the ball. But he's different kind of – he's not like Deion. Like, Deion played some offense, but he was a gadget guy. This guy, Travis Hunter, is not a gadget guy. He can run regular routes, and he can run the whole route tree. So he's a different kind of cat, but I would definitely start him off on defense side of the ball and then get spills on offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, listen, DJ, man, we appreciate it on draft night. You joined us. I know you're busy. You got a lot to do, and you only had a few minutes with us tonight. But man, what a treat! Thank you for joining us, and our audience, I'm sure, loves it to see Derrick Johnson, the pick 15 in his draft to the Kansas City Chiefs with the Kingdom hat on. You're gonna be up late tonight with that last pick.
That was 20 years ago, actually. This is 2000.
Man.
Yeah, you were 2005, the 20-year anniversary of your draft pick into the NFL. And I was watching that Third Longhorn podcast that you guys did with Mac Brown. And he talked about how he changed the whole defense for you. He changed the whole defense for you because you got to get, Carl Reese, get Derrick Johnson on the damn field. We're going to 4 linebackers, not 3.
3-4 in a game week. Just
and we were better for it. And we were better. I witnessed it. I was there. We were a better defense after it happened. So God bless.
Before I let you go, DJ, Rod Babers was your host on your first recruiting visit. How'd that go? Did Rod make a good first impression?
Hey, you see where I ended up, man. He did. Hey, Rod's always been a leader on and off the field. I always tell him this, man. He was that guy, regardless of what was going on the team. He always stood up for what was right and just led us the right way. So I always appreciate that, man.
Appreciate that, man. Love you, DJ. I appreciate that, man.
Yes, sir.
Welcome,
All right.
Derrick.
Third and Longhorn podcast, a great one, and we appreciate you on the On Texas channel. Thank you, DJ.
Look at that. Chiefs Kingdom. My father-in-law is a Chiefs aficionado. And I can tell you right now, he is excited that Derrick Johnson was just on this show.
Yeah.
No questions asked about that.
He's a Hall of Famer at the Chiefs.
I wanted to ask him, and it looks like the pick is in for the Giants as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Carter is the pick.
Yeah. What I was going to ask him with you guys is, does it feel, when y'all go out to practice, does it feel like that 2000 to 2010 run? You know what I mean? Where y'all talked about having Corey Ratting up front, and then Derrick Johnson and Nate Vasher, whoever. Yeah. I mean, they had there's so many great players in that 10-year run.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but I was certainly there and watched a lot of y'all's practices back then. I've been to as many as I can at Texas these days. It feels like it's getting to that kind of everywhere you look, there's somebody. You know what I mean by that? Like, you go out of Texas. I need to go look at there's somebody there at offensive line. I need to go look at this new defensive line. Oh, wait, there's a corner. You know, it feels to me like it's kind of you're when you go out to a practice right now, it's not you're looking for somebody to look good. It's kind of you're trying to just discern the different pieces of the puzzle and who all looks good, you know, as opposed to just one or two guys.
No, it does. I know obviously timelines are different now because of transfer portal and NIL. It feels like to me, because I remember when I left in 2002, And I remember the guys that were there after that. I was drafted in 03. So I remember the guys that were there. And we got to the point, it was a great question today that reminded me of this. We got to the point where there were probably 2 or 3 games, maybe 2 games a year that were, in my opinion, more juiced up and more competitive and tougher than the practices that we were having at the time on a day-to-day basis. Because the rosters are so stacked. Like even going against the second and third team. I mean, VY was on our scout team at one point, guys. And we would and he was giving us looks. Like that was a real thing that was happening. And that's how stacked the roster started getting by the time Rod B was leaving. And we knew it was like, man, and we were winning 11 games. All right. And there were just like 2 games a year that we couldn't, that we would have a drop off or a setback and we couldn't overcome. Right. We didn't have enough talent to overcome it. We didn't have enough coaching, advantage to overcome it. I think they're at that point now where I think they're going to have enough talent to overcome any setbacks and any, disadvantages. And I think I like the coaching. Sark's got to, take his game to another level too. But I think the coaching that Texas has is also some of the best in the country too. And we didn't really have that when we left. Because remember, Mac upgraded a little bit when we left. Was that on 04? He upgraded a little bit with the coaching staff. He tinkered some things. And I think it also pushed him over the top along with all the talent they were getting. And what has he been doing with the coaching staff? A little tinkering, losing some things here and there, a little tinkering, adjusting. So I feel like that. I feel like 2026 is the year. I don't doubt 2025 can be the year for Texas. When you start getting double-digit guys drafted back-to-back years and going to the Final Four, you're definitely really close. Like you're really
Rob, you're right though. 2026 on paper is setting up to be the one.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I would say this though. I mean, to your point, Rod and Jerry, whether it's this year or next, you put double-digit guys in. It was 11 last year, could be 12, 13 this year over the 3 days. But the portal has changed the world, right? The ability to add 5 defensive tackles, 10 total players, your kicker and your punter, new tight end, new receiver, fill those holes with not just uncertainty, but veteran football players that have played D1 level in the Power 4. So you're filling gaps. But, man, I mean, just look at the last 5 or 6 national champions that have won it. I mean, they were built around a great defense with the All-Americans at every level like you guys were talking about, whether it was, Ohio State this past year. As much hype as their offense gets, their defense was why they won the national title. The 2 games they lost, their offense was really bad. Certainly the Michigan game. The Oregon game, they kind of got surprised by some play calling. But either way, they lost 2 games. But their defense was the number 1 defense in the country. The year before was Michigan with the defense. The year before was Georgia. I mean, that's, Texas has built. I mean, so Sark being an offensive guy has built with the recipe that has won the last 4 or 5 national championships, which is leaning on your defense, being good enough on offense and not turning the football over, and being able to run the ball.
Yep.
So I don't disagree with you. I think Texas has a chance this year to be right there with anybody in the country. Bobby, you were going to say?
Yeah, no, I think that I was actually going to go talk a little bit more about the draft. I agree with all of y'all. That's what I was bringing up. When I started that conversation.
Well, let's do this real quick. Let's recap. So Abdul Carter is the pick.
Yeah.
I'll get into that with the Giants because they were, 4th in pressure rate last year. I guess I wouldn't be surprised to see Kayvon Thibodeau as a tradable piece here tonight or tomorrow because you got Kayvon. They put a lot of draft capital to go get Brian Burns from Carolina and give him a big contract to be a pass rusher. And now you're taking Abdul Carter. They still don't have a quarterback and the offense is a mess. But they're going to rush the passer. I don't think – and Kayvon Thibodeau is underachieved, but he still was a top 5 pick in 2022. That's a guy that could be available tonight for trade as they try to address their other needs, but Abdul Carter too good to pass. Let's go back to Travis Hunter. We talked about his versatility and, can he play? But, Jerry, you saw him coming out of high school, number 1 recruit, the opposite of Cam Ward, 0-star recruit versus the number 1 player. This is a special kid.
Special kid. He grew up in West Palm Beach area. I lived down there for a lot of that time. He moved up into the Atlanta area. He has as good a ball skills as I've ever seen. I think that's the thing with him. And it's so translatable to offense, defense, special teams, whatever. The guy has special ball skills. And that's what I think legitimately people talk about, everything else, but it's the ball skills. He has got all pro level ball skills on either side of the ball as a return guy. That's what truly does give him a chance I agree with everybody. I'd play him at corner. And then we'll see what Jacksonville does, but he has such great ball skills. He is one of those rare guys that he can go make plays at wide receiver. You can't play him a ton of snaps like he did in college, but he has such great ball skills that if you put a ball in an area code, even against pro corners, he's going to win it more than 50-60% of the time. The guy's just got special ball skills and just a great player, man. And it's so. I mean, it was that was also one of the crazy recruiting stories in recent memory because he was committed to FSU where he'd always wanted to go, being from West Palm, and then Deion Sanders gets the Jackson State job.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most wild, sorry, producer Matt, recruitments and the way he did it on signing day you'll ever see. Because, I mean, that was like such a crushing blow. And he was the first guy that went from Power 5 down that was a 5-star prospect, and it was a wild at the time recruitment.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, when you hear as a DB, when you think about ball skills, what does that mean to you as a receiver and as a DB? I mean, ball skills, you talk about the different types of corners and receivers that you have to cover. By the way, the first left tackle is off the board, as a lot of people have mocked the Patriots bringing in a left tackle to protect Drake May, their franchise quarterback. He is Will Campbell out of LSU.
That's good for Kelvin Banks. The Patriots went as expected with Will Campbell at 4. I think that was very good for Banks and Mbu.
That puts Cleveland back on the clock, and it'll be interesting because there was talk that the Bears have been trying to come up to take Ashton Genty ahead of the Raiders, the running back, and so we'll keep an eye on that because the Browns have already traded back once. You wonder if they would consider going back again to acquire draft capital, but the Browns pick is in, apparently, according to our draft ticker there. So they have made a selection, so we'll see where that goes. But, Rod, back to the ball skills. What does that mean to you when you're watching film saying this guy has elite ball skills? How do you defend that?
Yeah, I mean, it is tough, right? Because I do think that is a natural trait. I think that's something that's ingrained, something you're born with. I played with guys like that. I played with a Nathan Vasher, who tied for the all-time interceptions record at Texas. He one of them dudes. He's like, when the ball is anywhere in his area code in the vicinity, that guy believes he has a right to it. And that's what the game is all about. It's, ultimately, when you're in a one-on-one situation, some guys, they do have just as an innate ability to position themselves better for the football, especially on vertical shots downfield where you actually have a chance to position yourself. I played with guys. Nathan Vasher was best example that I can give of it, of a guy I played with that had that knack, because when the ball was in the air, he became a receiver automatically. And like I said, he has the tied for the all-time interceptions record. So it is I didn't have it. So I know it's a real thing.
You did not.
I'm the antithesis of a guy like Nathan Vasher and a guy like Travis. I'm on the other end of it. So I know it is a real thing. I did not have it, but I recognize I didn't have it. So I adjusted my game. But there are some guys, man, they have this freaky and I think it's almost dangerous ability and innate like awareness that when the ball's in the air, they're not even playing their position anymore. They're just a ball player and they're going to get the football. It can be look at Trevon Diggs with the Cowboys. It can be a gift and a curse. It can get you in trouble sometimes too. But I think ultimately Travis Hunter, like Jerry says, probably has some of the best we've ever seen, like all time, of that awareness.
Yeah, we see it with our Texans, Rod, Derek Stingley.
Yes.
People said he could be a receiver. He runs the route for the receivers. And those are the guys, they should just mirror that, and then they can go catch it. And we saw all the interceptions he made against top receivers last year.
Yep, I agree with you. He's going to need it now because I think that's why they, that's one of the reasons. I mean, you go look at the ecosystems of these divisions these guys are in, right? And it'll explain sometimes a lot of why they decide to go the direction they're going in the draft. Abdul Carter, I mean, you're in NFC East. Look at the quarterbacks. right? I mean, that you got young Jaden Daniels who's balling. You got Dak Prescott to deal with, Jalen Hurts to deal with. You better make sure your D-line is set and nice. And they got a loaded D-line to the point where you said they're going to be trying to put one of these guys on the trade market. So your ecosystem has a lot to do with where you go in the draft too. Who's at the top of the food chain in your division? Because you got to get out of your division and then get out of the conference and then try to get to the Super Bowl. And so that's a big part of it too, trying to adapt to your ecosystem. You'll see a lot of that here in these, kind of in these draft picks and their selections.
What real cool thing for Monroe Neville High, where Will Campbell went before this pick comes in. They now have 2 players off the same high school offensive line that have been drafted. Max Mitchell, I think, was a senior when Will Campbell was a sophomore. He went in the 4th round, I think. He's with the Jets. He went to Louisiana Lafayette. But 2 high school offensive linemen from Monroe Neville off that same offensive line have now been drafted. Pretty cool for Neville High.
Cleveland Browns are on the clock. The pick is in, and we'll see where that goes. Your first 4 picks, as projected, just a different team. Jacksonville has traded up with Cleveland, but I give Cleveland a chance. I mean, they picked up a first-round pick for next year. They picked up another second tonight, which is where they could take a quarterback like a Quinn Ewers, which we'll talk about throughout the course of the night. They've got now 2 high second-round picks that they can use, to package. But their pick is in. I thought they may consider going back again because there were reports that teams really wanted to come up to take Ashton Genty. But at the end of the day, guys, one thing to take a running back high, but to give up draft capital to go up and take a running back becomes even, heavier, right? When you're giving up future to get a running back, Genty's a great player, but we'll see what Cleveland does.
If I agree with you, we'll see what Cleveland does. I'm kind of wondering what they do with this pick.
Yeah, me too.
Because everybody had penciled with Travis Hunter, right? So what do they really need? Because now, I really think after the first 3 guys went off the board, those were the first 3 guys. You're going to take the number 1 quarterback 1. That happens 9 years out of 10, right? And then I think that Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter were clearly seen as the 2nd and 3rd best prospects in this group. Now it's kind of, what flavor do you like?
Mason Graham. Great
Mason Graham out of Michigan, the defensive tackle.
I
On the line now with Myles Garrett.
That is an undersized defensive tackle. Now, Aaron Donald was undersized.
Okay, 6'3", 296. What do you think, Jared?
I think the guy's a hell of a football player. And look, I think they got a decade-long starter if he stays healthy. I think he's a tremendous football player. And the crazy thing is, I don't know, Rod, if we'll ever get the answer, but it'll be interesting to look back if we could ever get Jake Majors and ask him, because he went up. If you think about this draft, who he went up against, who was the best guy y'all went up against? You saw on tape you went up against. I bet he's going to say Mason Graham.
Yeah, that's a great question because the Georgia kids, obviously some top tackles at Ohio State, obviously, that they saw that are going to be drafted tonight. And Mason Graham, he's out of California, correct, Jerry?
Anaheim Servite. Yep.
Yeah, they'll have two. Anaheim Servite will have 2 guys in the first round tonight.
Yes.
Teteroa McMillan is also the wide receiver, is also from Anaheim Servite. What I was getting at here with Mason Graham, I bet I could be wrong, but I bet Jake Majors wouldn't say Mason Graham because Jake Majors is pretty quick.
Yeah.
Jake Majors probably has bigger problems with 330-pound Goliaths. And that's what I'm saying here.
I get that.
I don't like this pick. I don't necessarily like this pick.
I think, like I said, I think also getting back to what I said about the ecosystem, who is the king of that division right now?
Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
I need somebody that can help me vanquish whoever is the king of this division. That's the ecosystem. I got to get out of this division. Then I can worry about the conference and then the Super Bowl. So who's the king? Right now is Derrick Henry and the Ravens. Let me stop that running game for Derrick Henry. I got somebody on the edge in a Myles Garrett that can deal with, Lamar Jackson, his running ability. I need somebody that can stop the run inside and be a force. I'm telling you, man,
that
ecosystem.
I think you may be onto something because it's the outside zone that Mason Graham, because of his quickness,
it killed him. Yep.
will help defend.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But man, he's not. I have a hard time believing he's going to be a guy.
Well, but you guys just talked about it right there. I mean, Texas spread them out, and that was when Quinn was healthy, and they were, going side to side and running those guys in tempo. In that division, that's a rock'em sock'em division. That's an in-your-face Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, Joe Burrow division. You got to play defense. Mason Graham. I kind of like what the Browns have done. I mean, if Travis Hunter goes on as Derrick Johnson, who was with us earlier here on the On Texas Football Thursday night, I should say, NFL Draft Watch Along, said he's going to be a Hall of Fame player, then you missed on that. That would be very Cleveland-like. And to Bobby's, questioning, is this a Hall of Fame caliber player or just a really good player? That's a fair question. I think I like that a lot because Travis Hunter could have been theirs, but they did pick up a first-round pick next year, which, again, next year's draft class, guys, is loaded. When you think about next year, because Cleveland may not be that good again this year because they still don't have a quarterback, but next year's draft class is going to be, could probably not Arch Manning, but could be. You're going to have a lot of real good players in the draft next year at that position. And now the Browns have solidified a second-round pick this year, as we've said, where they can take a developmental quarterback in addition to their own second-round pick, and they picked up a first next year to go back 3 spots, and they take Mason Graham. So the Raiders pick is in. Is this Ashton Genty? Is there any doubt?
It's Genty. It's Genty or Banks. Yeah,
Banks could be a good one here, man. This is where it starts. This is where the Banks, I think, kind of sweepstakes starts. It's right here.
Yeah, I think the next 3 picks or next 2 for sure.
Yeah, next 2
Longhorns.
Sure. This will be interesting. Will it be Jantey or will it be Banks while they're walking up here to give? I don't know if I have time to go through this. I don't. I'm going to go through this after the pick, but I want to go through something that's crazy. I'm about to. It's just going to be wild.
All right, it's Ashton Genty. The pick is in. Ashton Genty is the pick. Boise State, the running back, going 1 pick ahead of where Bijan Robinson, went to the Falcons a couple years ago. He was pick 7, I believe, to the Falcons. He goes pick 6 to the Raiders. They have Geno Smith, and, the numbers would tell you Geno Smith's a much better quarterback with play action, ability to play action to play and run the football. He is seen as an elite Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson type running back talent. Go ahead, guys. What do you think about Ashton Genty, the Raiders, with their new general manager, Tom Brady, now kind of in control as well of their front office, and new head coach Pete Carroll, who had Marshawn Lynch with the Seahawks?
You need names to sell. I will say that. I think that's a big part of it too. I'm sorry, it's just Vegas thing. You need names to sell. Think about what they got. They got Tom Brady.
Sexy sells.
Yeah, Pete Carroll. You can't. If you're in Vegas, people can't be in Vegas like who is that? Who is? Nope. They need splashes. So I think it fits that for Vegas. That no, this is a guy that's well known now because all throughout the season we talked about Ashton Genty, and he may be a really spectacular highlight reel player on the field too, which will really help them. I do think it matters. It matters being in Vegas. I think that kind of stuff matters. I know it's draft time, but it does.
Look, I think there's a lot of that besides Travis Hunter being a great player. Jacksonville needed a splash in their franchise.
Yeah.
Well, he's a Florida kid originally, too. You said it. I mean,
JT, I think this guy's going to be a multi-year all-pro running back. He's got great contact balance. He's got great vision. He's got great feet. His jump cut's as good as his skip cut. His skip cut's as good as his jump cut. He has great backside vision. He sees it quick. He's a willing pass pro guy. He catches out of the backfield. He's durable. I think this guy's a tremendous, tremendous running back. And if he has the pro career that I think he may, you got to stay healthy. In 15 years, people will be like, wait, this guy went to high school in Frisco and nobody offered him and went to Boise. How'd that happen?
Yeah, well, that's one of the storylines of this draft. You can go back to Cam Ward at number 1. I mean, the COVID year was impactful. Yeah. A lot of guys slid. I mean, Cam Ward ended up going to Incarnate Word, and he won remember, they played his first quarterback year. He played in the spring at Incarnate Word, and they won the conference in the spring season. And then they played again in the fall, and they won the Southland Conference in the fall, too. So within one calendar year, they won 2 conference titles, which has never been done before. But now Ashton Genty, he was a military kid, too, Bobby. Yeah. Who learned to play football at late stages, and he's because of that military background, I have to say, loyal guy, because Boise was the first guy on him, and by the end of his recruitment, there were a lot of teams in on him. And he said, no, Boise was first. And then he didn't leave Boise when he could have gone and cashed in on the NL side. He stayed at Boise. I think there's a lot to like about that young guy.
There is a lot to like about him. And I'm telling you, Jerry, you love him. And I have not watched him enough. I watched a little bit of like the Penn State game, right, where he had to run through, lines of tacklers. It wasn't very easy for him, right, because Penn State just dominated Boise up front. But my piece on this is why do you if I'm the Raiders and I have a lot of needs, I don't know why I take a running back there unless I think he's LaDainian Tomlinson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I think he's that good, then he's worth it. Do y'all think he's that good? Do y'all think he's LaDainian Tomlinson?
I think he's going to be a multi-year All-Pro. Now, what does that mean for?
That's worth it.
No, and that's fair. If you think that's worth it, then
Best in the game, that year. I think that's worth it. He's going to be
Well, that's the comp.
When did Josh Jacobs go though?
Yeah. No,
I'm very similar to Josh Jacobs personally.
Yeah, no, Bobby, I agree because usually you don't take a running back that high unless you think they're really, really special. I think multi-year all pro is really, really special. But I agree with you. Normally, where the position is valued now, you go elsewhere. Because and this is, by the way, this is considered one of the deepest running back drafts in the last 15 years.
Yes.
They compare it to the 08 class and the 17 class where Alvin Kamara went in the third round in 2017. There were a lot of really good backs. Well, we'll see. I mean, Tom Brady, this is his first big move along with John Spytek, the GM there. Obviously, Pete Carroll had some influence on that spot. We thought that could be a Kelvin Banks spot. Well, now the Jets are on the clock. They have a new head coach. He is Aaron Glenn, Texas A&M star back in the day, out of Nimitz High down in the Houston area, and now coming in from Detroit. You could think defense with Jahdae Barron. They need a corner pretty bad opposite Sauce Gardner because they lost their other corner in free agency. You could think Kelvin Banks here because they're continuing trying to build the offensive line. Not sure what the Jets will do, but now we're starting to get into the Longhorn territory, guys. 7 to 12, 7 to 15 is where we could start seeing the first Longhorns go off the board.
Yeah, and people
took a little extra time on this because I think the Jets are going an offensive lineman.
They are,
and it could be 2 or 3 different guys, and so they were trying to wait and if they could have went back and got probably the same guy they're going to pick here at 9 or 10, that's probably what they were trying to do.
The chat saying it's Mbu from Missouri, who's a hell of an athlete. While we wait on that, I just wanted to say this. Bobby may have know a lot of this just from covering it, but Anaheim Servite High, their Wikipedia page is as impressive as it gets. I'm just going to throw some names at you. All sports: Steve Berline, Steve Buechele, Patrick Cantley, one of the best golfers in the world. Chris Gallipo's a 5-star, but Mason Graham, Frank Khalil, Ryan Khalil, Matt Khalil. I mean, they've had like 9 offensive linemen in the NFL that have come out of this high school. You just keep going down the list. To Terry McMillan, obviously, Troy Nicholas, the tight end. I'm skipping MLB guys right and left here. Just Equimanius St. Brown, Kurt Vollers. I mean, Keith Taylor with the Panthers. That school has produced Mike Witt, the longtime MLB pitcher, others, Matt Willis, receiver for the Broncos, Keith Taylor, obviously, and Matt Slater, their captain for the Patriots right now. This school's produced as many pro athletes as about anyone. It's amazing to look at their history.
In Orange County, they and Mater Dei recruit.
Yep, they get all the kids.
Those are the 2 main schools. You have Bosco too, but the two that primarily recruit in Orange County are Servite and Mater Dei, and so that's where you get that group of guys going. So that you're right. What this Mbu guy came on a little bit this year, right, guys? The young man out of Missouri that went to Missouri, the big offensive lineman, and we started hearing his name post combine or right before the combine. Is that
kind of grew into his body. Big athlete, one of those guys that great feet, great athleticism.
Is he from Kansas City or St. Louis? Do we know?
I think KC.
Drafts has gone. If you're just tuning in here on the On Texas Football channel, our live pick by pick. Watch along for the NFL draft. No Longhorns yet. One big trade. Jacksonville going up to 2. And Armand Membao, the Missouri tackle, is the pick, which means 2 tackles have gone off the board before Kelvin Banks. Have to think the next one will be the former Longhorn now, Kelvin Banks. We've all kind of projected him to be the first Longhorn pick, but we'll see. Carolina Panthers are on the clock as the draft, as we said, it's kind of gone slotted outside of the one move where Jacksonville went up to 2, but it was thought that Cleveland would take Travis Hunter. Instead, Jacksonville in the state of Florida went up, got him, and they traded back. And every mock I saw, or most of the mocks I saw, had Jacksonville taking Mason Graham. So, they just kind of switched spots, and Cleveland picks up some extra draft capital here for tonight and next year. So now Carolina on the clock with the Panthers. So we shall see. Pick is already in. So they've made a pretty quick move here in Carolina.
Hey, couple of things with Mbu that's interesting. Bobby, how many guys that have been ranked high 3-star, low 4-star like Mbu coming out of high school have you seen that were offered by Iowa that ended up getting drafted? A hell of a lot of them. Like it's almost like in our industry, if Iowa offers somebody, you better take 3 looks at where you have them ranked on the offensive line,
especially on the offensive line.
Yeah, on the offensive line.
Quarterback.
No, yeah, on the offensive line. By the way, you think Mario Cristobal can evaluate offensive linemen? Oregon was the biggest school that offered this kid in that same class with Kelvin Banks, Cam Williams. You think Mario Cristobal has an eye for offensive linemen? I'm thinking he might.
Yeah, that's so funny because Kirk Ferentz at Iowa was an offensive line coach in the NFL. So
yes,
and then he went. So offensive line is his specialty. If he identifies a guy, Kyle Flood at Texas has done a nice job of identification and finding those right guys out of high school that you're looking for. I think that Trevor Gooseby being the latest guy. It's kind of like what I heard coming into this draft, Rod. You'll like this. Howie Roseman in Philadelphia, who's traded up to take Devontae Smith, traded up to take Jordan Davis, traded up to take Jalen Carter. Word is the GMs that when they see Howie Roseman come up, they're not answering the phone.
The owner has a strict this rule. No, Howie Roseman, don't answer the phone.
You're about to get fleeced. You're about to lose this trade.
You already know. You think the NBA would be like that with the Lakers, but no.
Yeah, you're about to lose. Don't answer the phone. Block him.
In the old days, if Jerry West was calling, don't answer.
Don't answer. Yeah, you're not gonna win that. You're not gonna win that negotiation.
No, don't answer.
Yeah, well, self-awareness is a big key in life, right? I mean, it's like, hey, I'm the rube here. If he's calling me, I'm gonna get suckered. I'm not doing it. I'm not even picking up the phone.
That's like Jeff Lunau at the Astros back in the day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well,
when you have that track record, it's like, hey, man,
I agree.
I'm out. I'm not going to pick up the phone.
The Dodgers didn't even know who the Dodgers GM, who is a tremendous GM, right? One of the best in baseball, if not the best. He didn't even know who Yordan Alvarez was.
Yeah.
When Jeff Lunau called to get him.
Yeah, here's that big, gangly 19-year-old running around your outfield. Yeah. You want him. That's right. That's right.
Where do we think Carolina is going to go?
They could go 3 different
Aaron McMillan.
They're so bad. They could go so many. They can go Ted. They can go wide receiver. They can go DB. They can go edge rusher. They're so bad that when you're that bad, you can go a lot of different places.
Well, their new general manager as of last year is. Well, remember last year they took 2 Longhorns. They took Jonathan Brooks and JT Sanders.
JT Sanders, yeah.
And so they like Longhorns. And Dan Morgan's the new general manager, and he's a defensive guy. So this might be one of those Georgia kids. This might be a Jalen Walker, Michael Thompson type of Michael Williams type of pick for them from right down the road in Athens. They got to upgrade the defense. They went heavy offense last year to put some weapons around Bryce Young. It worked as the year went on. Obviously, unfortunately, Jonathan Brooks re-injured his knee or had another knee injury he suffered during the year. JT Sanders is a projected, developmental tight end for them right now. They took both of those guys. So Carolina, they are really bad. I mean, as you said, the ecosystem of your division, Rod, the whole division isn't great. So they're trying to get in the mix. Bryce Young's their quarterback. I would lean defense here just based on who the general manager is.
Jalen Walker,
they did last year,
because he is a North Carolina native, is he not, Jerry?
Yeah, he's from Western North Carolina in that area. Yeah.
Yeah. Jalen Walker makes a lot of sense, and I think he's great. We talked about, like, no offense to Ashton Genty. If I had to choose a guy to be on my team, I'd choose Jalen Walker before Ashton Genty. That's what I'm getting at.
That's a good point.
I don't get that. And 10 years from now, y'all can come back and tell me that Ashton Genty rushed for 10,000 yards, and I'll be wrong gladly. But that's kind of my point.
Well, we'll see the pick when it comes in. That puts the Saints on the clock,
and that's big.
9.
This is your good Kelvin Banks area here, though, potentially with the Saints, because
and there were reports today, and I know you're going to love this, Jerry, that Kellen Moore is the new coach. He's a quarterback guy, and that Jackson Dart won't get past the 9th pick. I think that's kind of crazy, but any chance Mickey Loomis hasn't taken the New Orleans Saints as an organization have not drafted a quarterback in the first round since Archie Manning.
That'd be insane.
Since Archie Manning.
That'd be insane. To do it this year, that'd be insane. That'd be crazy.
I think that will be such an interesting pick, because I love Jackson Dart's talent. Look, I had somebody that was on staff at USC sent me some video from his first practice at USC. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this guy looks every bit like I think maybe you thought he might. But golly, man, he had yellow socks at the end of that Ole Miss game. And I know guys have bad games, but dadgum, dude, that would stick with me a little bit, man. I mean, the playoffs are on the line. The whole thing was on the line. He threw 3 interceptions in the last 2 minutes of that game.
I remember we were doing the watch along.
Yes.
We came on at the end of that game, and you're like, this guy just gave the game away. Jackson Dart. Did you say yellow socks mean he peed down his legs, right?
Yes. I mean, he threw an interception, and then he came back through another interception. He got overturned. He was crying on the bench thinking he'd just blown the season, came back in and threw another interception. I was like, Tara McMillan's the pick, but I was like, that stuck with me with him, man. And I think he's a really talented kid. I don't know.
Ted McMillan is the pick. That's one the Cowboys liked at 12. He's off the board, 6'4" receiver. Out of what'd you say? That's Anaheim, right? That's that same high school we just talked about. Now,
2 picks in the top 9.
Top 8 picks, 6'4" and 220. Kind of a Drake London comp, as they say. I'm surprised because last year they took Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina. They took JT Sanders and Jonathan Brooks. They went heavy offense. I thought they'd go back to the defensive side. They get another weapon for Bryce Young.
You got to exactly. It's now we got to give Are we actually going to give this young quarterback a chance who we drafted this high? Are we ready to give up on him? If not, let's give him weapons and see how good he can be. He actually ended the season pretty well last year. Nobody cares because nobody watched. He actually looked good toward the end of last season. So I think
they benched him early and they put Andy Dalton in the game, and Andy kind of stabilized things. And let's remember this for Bryce Young, who was the first pick a couple years ago now. He's had already 2 head coaches and 2 offenses, and Frank Reich didn't make it for the first year. And so that's been kind of a washing machine for him. And now it's a whole new regime. So you're right, Rod. They're give this kid some weapons. Xavier Leggett, McMillan, JT Sanders. Hopefully Jonathan Brooks can get healthy. And Chuba Hubbard's a good running back that they have.
Agreed. Yeah. No, I think that's what they're doing. I think they're saying, listen, let's see what we got in him. Let's give him some weapons. And if he isn't the guy that we thought he was when we drafted him, then we can think about other alternative plans. Right now, we're doing a disservice to the young man, though, because he doesn't have any weapons. Who knows how good he is when he doesn't have anybody to throw the football to?
Yeah, you're right about that. What do you know about the player, Jerry? I mean, 6'4" out of Irvine or Anaheim, playing in the Pac-12 and now the Big 12 for 1 year, but just a big receiver. I think Matthew Golden's a better route runner. He's more explosive, but this guy just got that size factor.
Yeah, he's a red zone dude. He's going to move chains. But I'll tell you what, he was a hellacious volleyball player. And I was he was like, I think he actually played at Arizona early. Like, he was one of the top volleyball prospects in the country coming out of high school. But great, another really good ball skills guy. I mean, he's not – look, there's faster guys than he is, right? But, I mean, he's 6'4", what do they say, 6'4" and a quarter, 219, with elite 50-50 skills. He plays through contact. He plays over the middle of the field. I think it's a solid pick. Is he going to be better than Matthew Golden? I don't know on that one. But I think I agree with Rob. They're giving Bryce Young a chance.
Yeah. And Dave Canales is the head coach. He's an offensive guy. So far, 8 picks in. You've got a quarterback at number 1 in Cam Ward, which was not a surprise. You've got the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up, 3 picks and giving up pretty good draft capital to Cleveland. Cleveland went back. They take Travis Hunter and bring him in, and then Abdul Carter to the Giants. And one thing I'll say about the Giants and Abdul Carter, I mentioned this earlier. I think it's worth repeating. Giants were top 4 in pressure rate last year on the defensive line. That's one of their strengths, and that's why I was wondering, you got to take their best player. But if you're top 5 in pressure rate, that's one of your strengths. You have a lot of weaknesses. That's why I wonder if Kayvon Thibodeau is a trade piece now for them.
I totally agree with you. I think it is, but I think they want to make sure, like at this point, dealing with the quarterbacks they deal with now, and just added another elite quarterback, at least like the way he played last year, Jaden Daniels. Yeah. You better be ready. You better have pass rush. What do we talk about? What did we learn in the Super Bowl? What was the Super Bowl lesson? The lesson was no matter how weak the quarterback is, pressure will make elite quarterbacks look mediocre. That's exactly what we learned. So they were like, nah, let's just double down on the pressure. That's always a safe bet. Always a bet. And
that's what the Longhorns are doing. Longhorns are going pressure. They're trying to wreak havoc on people.
There are a lot. The streets is saying that Kelvin Banks might be the pick here, which doesn't make a lot of sense with the Saints, if it is. I'm just saying the streets, like Twitter's talking.
I'm here for it.
Look, if it's Banks, that they just think they think he's a great player because like everybody's saying they're taking Jackson Dart, right?
Yeah, I know that's, but I think I would say that Kelvin Banks thing makes more sense because Fuaga, their tackle right now, left tackle, he can move back to like his original position, I think is right tackle. Remember, they're not picking up Trevor Penning's 5th-year option either. They're not going to pick it up. So they got offensive line issues. It's a safe pick that high. Jackson Dart is not a safe pick. That's a risky pick.
I agree.
It could work out, though. If it works out, then great. But what are the odds that it's going to work out at quarterback, right? We're talking about hit rates here. With Kelvin Banks, you can put him at left tackle. If it doesn't work out, put him at right tackle. Doesn't work out, put him at guard. He's going to be a good offensive lineman. We just don't know where it's going to be.
Here's something crazy. Here's something crazy about this. If it's Kelvin Banks, you think Bo Davis, Terry Joseph didn't have part of picking this, saying, hey, look, we watch this guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, they're both on that staff now.
Bo Davis coached against that guy every day in practice and probably told the Saints the guy's a great player.
They were a pro day too. That's even better. There it is. Kelvin Banks is the pick.
Yeah.
First Longhorn off the board, going to New Orleans. That is awesome. Summer Creek High down in the Houston area. I remember the stories, Jerry, when he was coming out of high school, that his high school coach gave him credit for helping elevate that whole program. That they were not a win, they were a brand new program, so he helped. They made the playoffs for the first time when he was there in the state. Won a district when he was there, and obviously he's been a walk-in starter and a pillar for this Texas team's rebirth into college football's top end.
And the head coach there is Kenny Harrison, lifetime Longhorn, recruited by John Makovic, played fullback for Texas, a tremendous offensive coach. Kenny Harrison now, for what it's worth, was the head coach of Jamal Charles at Port Arthur Memorial. Multiple players that went to Texas and have been drafted now. Kenny Harrison really gave back to the University of Texas. But Kelvin Banks, yes, a great leader. And it's no surprise that he came into Texas as a professional from day one and was part of turning a program around and helping lead them to 2 college football playoffs because he did something similar at the high school level with Summer Creek.
Well, and let's repeat what we said off the top of the show. That is the first Longhorn offensive lineman recruited in the first round, and it goes at number 9 overall. Gosh, since like Rod Babers was wrapping up. You were wrapping up, right? You were almost there. You had just finished.
Rod didn't have any gray hair back there. He didn't have any facial hair.
You
were still there.
Yeah, I was still there. Prime. That was my prime, man.
That's way too long, y'all. That's way too long. But here we are. 23.
Guys, I can almost guarantee you that Bo Davis had input on this pick.
Had to have.
Yeah.
Had to have.
Well, Terry Joseph, too.
I would love that. No, that's how interesting it is, guys. You'd be surprised because we learned that a couple of years ago with the Jordan Whittington pick, right? And how many insiders that the Rams had and visiting and Tate Haver and they knew it. Then the Marvion Overshown thing with the Cowboys. Oh no, when you got an inside presence or an inside source that can give you information and immediately vet the character of a young player. No. I'm telling you, he's the real deal. I was with him for most of the years.
Saw him every day. Yeah.
I saw him every day. You'd be surprised how it influences the pick. I trained in New Jersey with at Phil Sims's place. He had like a place, basically a workout facility there that would train guys for the combine way before he got really popular and became a niche industry. And I was training there, and there were a lot of Giants coaches and players, strength and conditioning, that would come through. And I swear, I never visited the Giants, but I swear there was a big influence on it. You'd be surprised how often, hey, can I get a firsthand source of what this guy's football character is like? Oh, he really is like that? Okay. He's the first guy in, last guy to leave. Let's do it.
Well, I mean, guys, through this process, especially this high in the draft, you're trying to eliminate as many unknowns as possible.
Yes.
And, there are teams that will go to the lengths of, everybody, like the guy that picks him up at the airport when he comes for his visit, he fills out a form. Everybody that he interacts with over the course of the visit, they ask, hey, was he our kind of guy? Was he our type of person? What'd you see? Did he treat you right? All those things. And when you have a guy like Bo Davis who can say, no, I saw this dude every day. This dude is an everyday guy. We eliminate the unknowns. He's a really good player. We can watch the tape. At this point, Bobby, you're trying to eliminate unknowns. You're trying to, because you just don't know these players. They're human beings.
You used a term that's important there. Okay. So Kellen Moore is from Boise. Chris Peterson was the head coach at Boise for 20 years, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Extraordinarily successful. And what did he used to say he recruited? OKGs, our kind of guys.
Yeah.
And this is Kellen Moore's first draft pick as a head coach. I think Kelvin Banks fits that role. Yeah. I think that's like that is that type of player to me. And so I'm happy that the Saints made, I think, a great pick and all that other stuff, but I'm most happy for Kelvin Banks.
Yeah.
Jerry knows this. We all kind of saw it, but his mom during the recruiting process was going through some major health issues.
Yes.
And the dad had to stop working for a while to help take care of that. It's not like they were rich financially.
This is where NIL was a great thing for a family.
Yes. And my point to you guys out there is, look, that kid had some sleepless nights when he was a junior and senior in high school.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it wasn't about where am I going to go play football. It was about where are my parents.
My mom going to be there to see me play.
Yes. And so for me, I love the fact, you can talk about how he's been and all that stuff, but I think there is a reason he entered Texas with the type of attitude that he did.
Yeah.
I think he did a hell of a lot of growing up from his junior to his senior year mentally about what was important to him. And I'm talking about junior to senior year in high school.
Agree.
And he took that and he's ran with that his entire life. So I'm
well said, Bobby. It's really well said.
And I will say this too.
His mom's doing better now, right? Mom's doing good.
I will say this too. His dad, Rod, played in high school football back in the day at Aldine High.
Yes.
You probably played against.
No, I didn't know he played around the same time as me. I was like,
he played with D.D. Lewis. He played with D.D. Lewis.
He's an all-greater Houston guy. Yeah.
I did some research about that later on and found out, I was like, oh man, Kelvin Banks Sr. I'm old because I'm in the same age as Senior.
Yeah.
His dad was a good player, he's just a little undersized.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because when I was a senior in high school in the early 90s, Aldine was the power school. Aldine and Willow Ridge. Those were the Aldine and Yates and Willow Ridge down in the Houston area. That was early 90s. Bears are taking Colston Loveland, tight end Michigan.
Time to get your fingernail polish out, Colston. You're catching passes from
Mr. Williams. Yeah, Colston Loveland. How many? Don't they already have Colston
love this pick. Somebody asked me today, by the way, I love Colston Loveland. Somebody asked me today who were the underrated guys in this draft. And I said Colston Loveland.
I agree.
And so if he would have been at Penn State, he would have done as much or more than Tyler Warren. I'm just telling you. The dude
I like Tyler
is,
Warren too, but I will say against Texas, he did not have a good game. So a lot of our audience are going to say, remember he had a big fumble where Andrew Makuba, forced to fumble. He did not have a great game against Texas, and actually Gunnar Helm outplayed him in that game. But you're taking the prospect, you're taking the better player, and Colston Loveland was better as a junior when they won the national championship. Obviously,
when they had a guy that could complete a forward pass too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that helps.
They did not. Let's be clear. They did not have a quarterback this year, and so I hear you. I just feel like I really like that pick. I think he's tremendous.
And much like Bryce Young, you're trying to put playmakers around a young quarterback. You drafted Caleb Williams and his fingernail polish, as Jerry said. You got to put some players around him, and the Bears take Colston Loveland. Back on the Kelvin Banks thing, I love what y'all said, and I know he went through a lot, and you said it, Jerry. I think for our audience that we hear the ills of NIL and the Nico Iamaleava situations and whatnot. Sure, there's bad stories, but there's so many good stories in NIL. I remember Jahdae Barron back, who's going to be drafted here coming up shortly. And by the way, the Cowboys are on the clock. The pick is in for the 49ers. We'll get on this
real quick. I would say the 49ers could be a Barron pick. I'm not saying he's going to be this early, but
I like it. I like it.
Plays zone, and he's the best zone coverage corner in the draft, probably the best DB in the draft period.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because Travis Hunter's off the board. Will Johnson of Michigan's still there, but Jahdae as well. Kelvin's off the board. But Kelvin Banks, Jahdae Barron told me at SEC Media Days, guys, that he, some of his NIL money, he bought his mom a house. They were able to sell their house. They get out of the house. They were in a Pflugerville, kind of rundown place, and bought his mom a house. Kelvin Banks, to what you guys said, he took care of his family, whose mom was in the hospital, and the dad had to quit working. And I remember Mattress Mac down in Houston, Jim McIngvale heard that story, and he called my buddy Nick Shuley and the guys, your guy Nick Rod, and said, "Man, I need to get this Kelvin Banks guy. I've heard this story. I want to get him a bed. I want to take him a full bedroom unit through NIL. And set him up with this air conditioned bed. He goes, you said it, Jerry or Bobby, that he wasn't having having some sleepless nights. So McIngvale was like, man, I need to help that kid, and he brought him a bed. And I just love those stories. I mean, we all go through stuff in college for sure in our whole lives, but NIL's not the horrible monster everybody plays it out to be. It needs help. It needs some structure. We know that, but man, so many good things happen for so many young people, in real time with that money they're making when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. Because not everybody's Arch Manning. I mean, it's not even to knock Arch, but not everybody comes from that situation where they don't need money. A high majority that you guys cover, Bobby and Jerry, don't come from the wealthiest neighborhoods.
Yeah, the best stories are the ones you just talked about, are the ones that happen organically.
Yeah,
that was an example of it. But those are the best stories because they end up telling the story of a young student athlete.
Yes.
And their journey and and then you could dive deeper and you learn like, oh, not only do they like this product, they like this product because of that, or the reason that they love pets is and they're you have a partnership with Austin Pets Alive, whatever it is, it's because they love dogs and they have a dog. It's like, oh, I didn't know this, that kind of stuff. So that's ultimately, I'm with you. That to me is the best part. That's at the spirit of NIL. Is that we get to know these young people and that their stories can also, help sell a product, of course, and market it, but also help us to grow intimately closer and connect with the sport and the young athlete, whoever they are.
Yeah. Well, this morning on the radio show, we had Vince Taylor, the agent, who represents, he's been doing it for a long time in Austin. He's got Trent Williams at San Francisco and Jason Peters and a lot of other guys. And he said, with the NIL, I asked him the question difference between, NFL and now NIL. And he said he loves being able to sit down with an 18, 19-year-old kid. I think Justice Terry, the Longhorns right now, is his client. And he said, man, I'm teaching them life skills right now. We're talking about finances and the future. And, you got to get a tax account and you got to pay taxes on all this stuff. And, these kids are learning really early how to handle money. What that looks like, how to be a brand ambassador. Like, hey, man, if you're getting this money for this, you got to show up on time. You got to be doing the right things. And he said, it really helps him as an agent because he's always Vince Taylor we're talking about and talked about, he likes to take pride in helping his young guys into the NFL develop into grown men and adults. And now he's able to do that for even younger people. And I think it's, it really is something that fans who like despise the whole NIL concept have to understand. There's a lot of good things happening in that space, probably more than the negative that we hear all the time. Hey, Bobby, tell them about Vaughn Lane. I love this service, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Vaughn Lane, one of our sponsors. Tired of the hassle of flying or driving? Skip the airport stress and highway headaches. Travel in first-class comfort with Vaughn Lane, the luxury motor coach service that connects major Texas cities. And now Vaughn Lane has even expanded to the Southeast, offering routes between Nashville, Memphis, and Atlanta. So wherever you're at, check out Vaughn Lane with spacious reclining seats, complimentary snacks and drinks on every trip, and meal service on select departures. Vaughn Lane makes travel stress-free and comfortable. If you need to relax, enjoy their hot towel service, eye mask, pillows, blankets, all included. Stay productive with high-speed Wi-Fi and power outlets at every seat. Upgrade your travel experience today. Visit VaughnLane.com. Use promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. Vaughn Lane, first-class travel without hassle. I want to add this. If you're coming into Austin this weekend and want to come down for Fan Appreciation Day, why don't you try Vaughn Lane? They'll get you to and from Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, into Austin and back without any trouble. Again, that's VaughnLane.com.
Hey, I was going to say, this is where the NFL draft gets me. And I know teams have needs because Mykel Williams is the pick for San Francisco.
Okay.
He isn't close to the same as good a player as Jalen Walker is. And Jalen Walker's going below him, and they were on the same team, and the staff saw it every single day there. This is where the draft gets tricky. It's need. I get it. But Jalen Walker's a much better player than Mykel Williams.
I agree with that. Well, he's got that length, and guys saw Trayvon Walker off that Georgia team go number 1 overall just because of the traits. Maybe wasn't the best player on that defense. But, Rod, you mentioned Jahdae Barron here. Your thoughts on this? They love D linemen. They always have. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's a lifetime Longhorn and a good friend of yours.
Yeah, that's the trend for him. I mean, you go look back. He's always invested heavily draft capital wise in D linemen early on in the draft. So he just continues that. He believes, there's a growing debate in football. Do you invest in pressure or do you invest in coverage? He believes you invest in pressure. All right, invest in pressure. And so I think he's just going with what has been traditionally what has worked for him, which is trying to stockpile and stack D linemen. So nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I said, Jerry, remains to be seen in retrospect if it was the right pick.
Well, no, it's just need. It's where the draft falls. It's a need. It's
any D line. Period.
Yeah, it's what a team needs versus maybe who's the better player that goes below them in a draft. That's where the NFL draft is kind of fun and gets tricky because San Francisco's need was on the D line.
There's need that's fit too. Yeah. That also plays a role that most people don't know about. It's like, oh, was he the right fit? That kind of thing. Nobody. Yeah,
and it just so happens that the better player is going to go below. Former teammate, the better player from the same school is going to go below.
All right, Cowboys are on the clock, and we'll take your thoughts in the comments and in the chat.
Hey.
Who do you think? Is this a Matthew Golden? This could be Matthew Golden. Right? A lot of people thought it was Tet McMillan versus Matthew Golden. Now Tet is off the board at the Carolina Panthers, 4 picks previous. So we'll see. We could go maybe back-to-back Longhorns here potentially with the Dolphins and the Cowboys. You could see Matthew Golden, Jahdae Barron here over the next couple picks.
You could actually.
I think somebody hit on the one I was told. Tyler Booker from Bama, and I think he'll be an All-Pro.
To where?
To Cowboys.
Cowboys.
They're going to take another offensive lineman.
I think Tyler Booker
works, but hey, I mean, at
tremendous
some point,
player.
Well, that means they'll probably move Tyler Smith out to right tackle or left tackle. The Tulsa kid they took in the first round a couple of years ago, if they were to go there. Maybe Tyler Guyton slides to right tackle, who was their first round pick a year ago. That would be interesting because I know Houston likes Tyler Booker a lot too. D'Amico Ryans was told that Tyler Booker on the offensive line, they're trying to change the culture of that offensive line room in Houston. Exactly. That he was told that in Alabama that Tyler Booker was kind of the Will Anderson of the offense, and the offensive line. Just you want him in a bar fight, you want him as your bouncer, you want him as your tough guy, but kind of like Kelvin Banks shows up every day. roughhouse, but man, just a really high character guy. That'd be a good pick. I really don't think where they are right now on this draft board, the Cowboys can go wrong here. I mean, I say that with a little caution, but Matthew Golden, Tyler Booker, Jahdae, Barron, any of those would be great picks right now. And here comes the commissioner with the Cowboys on the clock at the 12th pick.
Oh, let's see what Jerry does. He likes drama.
Jerry Hamilton, you think it's Tyler Booker here?
Yes, absolutely.
So you think, do you already know that?
I was told earlier today.
Oh, the Cowboys.
That's fine. Yeah.
Let's
Well,
see.
and I think you're seeing now why the Texans were trying to trade up, Rod, because they have these guys rated high, and Tyler Booker. Give me your thoughts, Jerry. I mean, all five big prospect out of high school and played like it at Alabama.
Jerry
Love this guy. I went to IMG because I was a part of national rankings at that time. We ranked him a 5-star kid. He's a 5-star prospect, 6-star human being, great leader, super intelligent guy, a guy that takes it all serious. He was a leader. Like if we had the guy that runs IMG football on here, this is their 22nd draft pick at IMG. He might say he's as good a leader as they've ever had at IMG. Wow. He might actually say that. Or he'd say he's a top 2 guy. Extremely, extremely impressive human being and talent.
Wow, that's a lot right there, Jerry. Because you heard there was some talk today that I saw where Tyler Smith said he's going to be more of a leader. Because, look, they've lost Tyron Smith, I should say, and Zach Martin in the last 2 off seasons. Those are 2 Hall of Fame players who were the established leaders. And, Rod, walking into the NFL, how important that is to have guys, as Sark would say, that set the temperature. This is how we do things. This is how we operate. This is how it works. Derrick Johnson earlier with us talked about you when he got there. I mean, it's important to have those guys that, you as a coaching staff, you can rely on when you're not around, that they're making sure the things are getting done right.
Yeah, and with the Cowboys offensive line, they've had a lot of change, right, and turnover recently. Losing some of their kind of cornerstone players, Zach Martin, most recently on the offensive line. So I love the quote from Tom Herman. I don't love a lot of quotes from Tom Herman. But Tom Herman once said that, when you're constructing and building and rebuilding the offensive line, you treat it like, kind of the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, he was talking about other stuff too. But basically, by the time you're done rebuilding it, you got to start all over again, rebuild it again. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you got to, because that's how the O-line is. Like, once you construct it, by the time you're done, then there's contracts are up and one guy's about to retire and the other guy's too old. You got to start all over again because it's such a, expansive project with the center and the tackles and the interior offensive line. So I think ultimately for the Cowboys, that's how they're looking at it. They think they got to start rebuilding it. They've been rebuilding it again for like probably 3 years now.
Well, you're right, Rod. I mean, it was Tyler Smith a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
When I was out in Vegas, I was at that draft and they took Tyler Smith out of Tulsa, like pick 23, and it was seen as a reach, but he turned out to be a good player. Last year, they took Guyton out of Oklahoma and Cooper Beebe later in the draft out of Kansas State, who they like. Now they come in with Booker, and you said it. I mean, they're repainting the bridge. They're trying to build that, and obviously Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach, they hired the Arizona run, offensive coordinator. They want to be a run-based offense, so offensive line first, which would tell you second round Cowboys have to go wide running back because they're going to have to get a back. Because Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, they're not going to get it done running the football the way they want to run the football. But I do like this pick, and what you just said, Jerry, kind of elevates my opinion of him.
Yeah, I know he's that guy. He's one of those guys that look, tremendous talent. That's also extremely high character guy, and I think Zach Martin retired right as well. But look, I think it's look. I don't sit there and study the NFL like Rod does, but I'm telling you from knowing this guy, Dallas fans will like Tyler Booker very much.
Well, that's Hall of Fame character
guy. He's also a culture guy for an organization.
Well, and the Cowboys talked about that. They really need to do that on their own line because again, you're losing Tyron Smith and Zach Martin in successive years. Also, they lost Tyler Biadasz at center.
Right? They lost
Travis Frederick.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, this is a good time to talk about this. You think the SEC is a line of scrimmage league or not? You had Will Campbell went 4, offensive tackle. Mimbu went 7, out of Missouri, offensive tackle. Kelvin Banks, 9, offensive tackle. Michael Williams, 11, edge. Tyler Booker, interior offensive lineman from Bama. 5 picks in the first 12. Interior players, OLDL players from the SEC.
Yeah.
Line of scrimmage league, baby. Line of scrimmage league.
Why do you think Texas took 5 defensive tackles in the portal?
Boom.
Exactly.
Boom. 5 details. You damn right. Good point, Bobby.
Yep.
By the way, I did hear today.
What the Dolphins need here is this.
This could be Jahdae Barron. I'm going to say this because the Dolphins are apparently shopping Jalen Ramsey, their Pro Bowl corner. They don't really have another corner. This could be Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron for them. They really have to solidify their defensive backfield. I mean,
Could be. Yep.
Rod,
I agree with you.
I've got a question for you, Rod, because to me, if you're debating between Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron, you're debating against 2 totally different types of players.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're debating against a man corner versus a full on.
And that's the thing about it. It's not that Jahdae Barron was a bad man coverage corner. They didn't play a lot of it, right? They played less than 20% man coverage. So he didn't play a lot. He actually had a really good, I went and looked at it. I'll give you my notes right here.
of course you did, Rod.
All right, so Jahdae Barron in man coverage. I went and looked at it. I was like, man, let me go look at what his stats are in man coverage. He had the lowest passer rating allowed, actually, in man coverage. They just didn't play it much. He was at actually at 0.6%, 0.60 passer rating allowed in man coverage. He was really good in man coverage. So I think ultimately it's just they didn't play a lot of it, and he's got really short arms. And long arms and length and wingspan usually translates to guys being able to play man coverage and play press man coverage at the line of scrimmage. I think Will Johnson's probably got more length and wingspan and to me, if you look at arm length, but to me, Jahdae Barron's a way safer pick because I think Jahdae Barron would translate to nickel if you want to put him inside. He can play nickel or outside, and he could also play safety. So I think ultimately Jahdae Barron's a better pick than Will Johnson. Will Johnson didn't run the 40 because he knew he was slow.
Well, that's
that's why he won't run it. And that doesn't mean he's not a good player. But I'm just saying he knows he's slow. That's why.
Well, when Jahdae ran 4.39 at the combine, that kind of changed the game.
Rod, I must be totally nuts because I think Maxwell Harrison's the best corner in this draft, man.
Kentucky?
Yeah, like the plays he made against Texas, he'd missed 5 games, bounced back. His makeup speed, I don't know, man. I think Maxwell Harrison, and people are like he's going to go late first round probably. I think that he's going to end up being one of the steals of this draft. I might be wrong.
Could be. But I think it's talking about a guy that can play. He can play man or zone.
Yeah.
Kind of throw Jahdae in a guy that played. He's the best zone coverage.
Right.
Which I think is a little unfair. Like I said, I think he's really good in man coverage too. But I think that's the boxes and the categories they kind of put you in. They try to pigeonhole you in that way.
Look, by the way, I hope Jahdae gets to go to Miami because that's a fun place to live if you're a pro athlete. So I hope that works out.
That would be great. And Jahdae would be a big personality down there.
If I'm reading the tea leaves here, they're going to go defensive tackle. I don't want to give it up because I don't think it's been said yet on television, but I think the Dolphins are going defensive tackle here.
Wow.
I don't want to ruin the surprise for folks. But it is going to be somebody I think that Texas fans are familiar with.
Michigan, Kenneth Grant.
Another one? Ooh.
Hey, I'm going to let Jeff Howard here, guys, to the chat. I'm going to get going. I got to get to Austin in the morning. Y'all have a great night, chat. Thanks. We're closing on 80,000 people. Thanks to everybody for always supporting us, and we'll see you this weekend.
Have a good one, Jerry.
Safe travels, Jerry. Come see us. All right, there's Jerry Hamilton coming to Austin for Fan Day and the Fan Weekend and the big recruiting weekend. Look who it is. It's Jeff Howe. Before we bring Jeff in to get his thoughts, Kenneth Grant, that's the second Michigan defensive tackle. I know we said it a bunch before Texas played Michigan, guys, that they have 2 guys on their D-line that could be first-round draft picks. Well, now they've been drafted in their top 14 picks or 13 picks of the draft. Will Johnson still could go the corner that we just talked about. But let me do this real quick before, Bobby, we get into and bring Jeff into the conversation. Let's tell you about our friends over at Advanced Pain Care. Advanced Pain Care. Great folks helping us on a Thursday night with our in draft pick by pick coverage. Advanced Pain Care, man. If you are getting to maybe my age and you've got pain, all of our ages, you got pain that you're putting off, don't put it off. Here's our friends at Advanced Pain Care helping us on a Thursday night.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Important. Jeff, how are you, man?
I am good. I'm great. I love the draft. I've always loved the draft. This would have been, back in the mid 90s, I would have been sitting in front of the TV as a youngster with the Austin American Statesman would have the draft picks. I'd be filling them in as you go with no internet to speak of. So I love the draft, and it's cool, watching Kenneth Grant get drafted now. It's official. He's headed to the Dolphins. One of the best games I think Sark has called. They used their outside zone, ran a lot of wide stuff early on against Michigan, got to the point where they would get, extend some drives and then get Grant and or Graham out of the game. And that's when Texas used some of their inside runs. So I just thought Sark called a brilliant first half against Michigan. That thing probably should have gotten more out of hand than it was. But that can you call it the high point of the season? I don't know, but that first half against Michigan was about as good as you'll see Texas play football.
That was the best we've seen Quinn. It was the best Quinn played. That's why
and the healthiest.
That's why it looked so good. Quinn had a better pro football focus rating or score under pressure in that game than with a clean pocket. In a clean pocket, he was unbelievable. It's the best Quinn played all season.
Yeah, period. Well, and it was the healthiest, and I think that's something. Rod, we talked on this channel a lot about once CJ Baxter got hurt in camp, they're going to change to kind of a build around Quinn and the quick passing game and spread people out and Sark's play calling, and and that was the best performance. So that's really what that offense was, and I think then the injury comes the next week against Stephen F. Austin against UTSA, and the next thing they're having to readjust how their offense is going to operate with an injured quarterback around Arch Manning. So it was part of the struggle of last year's team. But yeah, that was their best performance. Well said, Jeff, because 2 defensive tackles off the board in the first 13 picks. Will Johnson will go here in the next, handful of picks without a doubt. But Tyler Warren, I'm looking at this, Gerard, you're a Texans fan.
Oh,
Travis Hunter's now in the division. Tyler Warren's now in the division. Cam Ward's now in the division. These things you think about, Cowboys fans will get Jeff's thoughts about the Tyler Booker pick, but the AFC South is getting better.
Man, look, as long as Anthony Richardson's the guy throwing him the football, Texas fans are going to worry about the Colts. Y'all are good.
Hey, they've got Daniel Jones now. Danny Dimes is there. Picks 4,
again. Texas fans, y'all got to worry about the Colts. Y'all are good. You're good.
Yeah. Oh man, Sam Ellinger's even gotten out of there and gotten himself to Denver. I think it's a good thing. Hey, Jeff, what'd you think about the Cowboys pick?
And Chris Ballard's a Texas City guy, so I kind of pull for them and wish they would make smarter decisions as an organization, but such is life. Look, I'm not thrilled with it, but this sure seems like the route they went, back the late 20 teens and into that early part of the next decade, the late 2000s when they took Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, and Zach Martin. Now you've had this run of drafts where you've taken Tyler Smith, Tyler Guyton, and now Tyler Booker. So I get it. I understand it. We'll see if it works out. But it's a solid pick. I mean, I've seen the Cowboys do worse, and typically, unless they're taking guys from Michigan, they typically usually nail their first round picks. So chances are Tyler Booker is going to be a pretty solid pro and play for them for a long time. So I don't mind it. I'm not upset about it.
Was that a dig, Taco Charlton? That
no, not just him. He tackled. He's got
Mozzie Smith and Luke Schoonmaker, and they've had some bad ones from Michigan. Well, look, one of the reasons the Cowboys are in the spot they're in right now is that they've drafted so well, but the last couple drafts have not produced fruit. I mean,
no.
2023's draft, last year's draft have not been that good. I mean, really, and they live on that draft, so they got to hit on these players. You know, we mentioned the Mozzie Smith miss, the Schoonmaker miss. DeMarvion Overshown out of Texas looks like a great player, but he just can't stay healthy. Unfortunately, we hate it for him. Last year, Tyler Guyton was their pick out of Oklahoma, but he wasn't very good. He, had like a 49 PFF grade and only started 11 games. So, they really have to, if they're going to have this philosophy as an organization, they've got to hit on these draft picks.
Yeah, what's the big complaint about the Cowboys, right? That Jerry Jones is not aggressive, right? All in, and they don't go all in. They don't spend a lot of money in free agency. They're not very aggressive and active like the Philadelphia Eagles are in the trade market and in the offseason and free agency. So they are arguably the most homegrown team in the NFL, living off the NFL draft because they don't diversify their talent acquisition enough. You're right. If they don't hit in the draft, they're almost over leveraged, right? Over invested in the draft. You need to diversify a little bit and start picking up some more talent via trades and be more active in free agency. And they're not that team.
You say they need to hit the transfer portal like Steve Sarkisian?
A little bit. Well, yeah, actually, a little bit. No, a little bit. I think when the Cowboys make trades, they actually they traded for that wide receiver for the Panthers last year. It was terrible.
Yeah, Mingo and Trey Lance are forgettable trades. But the other did some good ones.
Yeah, they haven't learned the art of the deal, I guess. But my point is that ultimately the Cowboys, I think they need to diversify their talent acquisition. That's why the Philadelphia Eagles are, to me, they are one of the best organizations in the NFL, if not the best. They just proved that. Because go look at the way how aggressive they are in every way to acquire talent, whether it be the draft, free agency, trades. You're always like, oh man, that damn Howard Roseman, he's up to it again. And that's why Nick Caserio for the Texans, I love him because he's been the most aggressive GM in the NFL since he got there. He's always making trades. He's always trying to be aggressive. That's the way to be, in my opinion. The Cowboys, they seem to, they lack that urgency. I'm like, why don't you have urgency? There should always be urgency in the NFL because your window is usually 3 to 5 years. And outside that window, you're not going to win a Super Bowl with your current construct.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like the Cowboys have become like a big box store. I mean, they're waiting on, people to walk in the door, and when they're all online now, you got to pivot, man. You got to make moves. And if you don't hit on the draft picks and you're not, adding pieces through other portals and other avenues, it can be a struggle. And yeah, you're in a division now with maybe the best in the business now with Howie Roseman doing what he does for sure. I'm going to go with Atlanta here. I got to think they're going defense here, guys. I mean, they've taken offensive players in the first round the last 4 or 5 years, whether it's Kyle Pitts or Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Michael Penix. At some points, they were last in sacks last year. They got to go defense at some point. Maybe it's a Jalen Walker who's from that area at Georgia. Maybe it's a Jahdae Barron playing corner. They were dead last in sacks last year. I got to think they go defense here. But it's the Falcons, so they may. And I'm not a big fan of their GM. They'll probably go tight end again. I don't know.
The Falcons are trying to zig when everybody else zags, right? That's why the Michael Penix thing. They're like, nobody in the NFL has adopted the Green Bay Packers quarterback model. Why don't we try to do it, right? Let's try to, develop quarterbacks in that model, that kind of thing. So I appreciate they're trying to do things a little bit differently. So I actually have no idea where they're going to go. They could go Jahdae Barron, but as you pointed out, they really need to go pass rusher. Is this draft deep enough? Do they have enough draft capital where they think they can get pass rushing help later in the draft? That's the question. Here's the thing, guys. How many first round grades do teams have on players? I saw a report the other day that the I believe it's the Jaguars. They had like 20 first round grades. That was it, something like that. Like they don't have to, just because they're 32 picks don't mean they're 32 first round grades on guys. And we're at 15 now. There may be some teams boards where they only have 12 first round grades on players.
I've heard the numbers. Rod's probably anywhere from as low as that 12 to 15 range.
Yeah.
I want to say this. I think that's why we haven't seen many trades. If you have, we've seen one trade through 15 picks, right?
Yep.
Okay. It's because nobody wants to leave those top 15, top 20 picks. Because if they drop down to 25, they ain't getting the
second round player. They're getting a second round player. Yep.
Exactly. If you're going to do that, why not get more draft capital for either next year, a better draft, or somewhere later in the draft where you can get better value for that pick?
I think they got to go. I mean, because I do think Jahdae Barron has a first-round grade by most everybody. I think Jalen Walker has a first-round grade by, as Jerry Hamilton was saying earlier. I would go one of those two, and I think you'll be fine. And I'd love to see Jahdae with Bijan, but they need pass rush, so I got to think it's. What are you seeing, Rod?
Yeah,
I'm with you. I think Jalen Walker might be is the pick.
I think he's a good player. I think that's a good player. I mean, Texas fans saw him wreck Texas a couple times, at least for sure the game here, where they didn't block him very well. All right, look at it. CJ Vogel, full house tonight. You guys chat for a second. I'm going to run and take a quick potty break, but you guys can manage this. I think it's Jalen Walker here. Then the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock with pick 16. That's been a very popular mock draft for Matthew Golden, if he's still around, and he is right now. So keep an eye on Arizona. Quick potty break for me, and you guys pick this up.
This is about the area where we start to see, I think, 13 to the Dolphins, and the mocks, Rod, is probably where it was. That's where we started to see a lot of the Texas guys go. Props to Kelvin Banks for going to the top 10, but I got a feeling we're probably the next 10 or so picks, both Texas guys will be gone.
What's going on, fellas?
What's
It
up?
is
What's up,
Jalen Walker, by the way. It is Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker. Yeah, that fits the need, and as he was talking about it also for them, it fits close to home. They're probably a way for them to vet things, and we talked about that connection when you have a first-hand source potentially, which the Falcons may have about Jalen Walker. CJ, I want to get your thoughts about Kelvin Banks coming off the board, going to the Saints. Is that kind of where you thought he'd be in that area? And, who you think is going to be next to take a Longhorn?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Ashton Janney at 6 to the Raiders was probably a big surprise in my book. But look, he's as talented a running back as we've seen coming out. Obviously, he's in that Saquon Bijan category in terms of college production and, obviously NFL future. So 6 was a little early for me, but I think it's a great fit there. That's originally where we saw a lot of afternoon steam for Kelvin Banks. He became the favorite per Vegas at the number 6 spot for the Raiders. So with the Raiders off the board with Janney, I mean, New Orleans has now taken 16 offensive and defensive linemen in the first round of the NFL draft since 2002. That's a pretty remarkable stat. They've taken the first round offensive linemen in 3 of the last 4 as well. Hey, that team likes to pad the trenches. They also like to be in cap hell, and that's currently where they are. So to get a franchise left tackle, that's a great spot for Kelvin Banks. Doesn't have to go too far from Houston. Family should be able to, commute to and from games. I think it's a great fit for them. It's 420 somewhere. Thank you for the super chat. I can't do that right now at the moment based off the comments he just made about Kelvin Banks. So maybe a little bit later in this show, but for him to say that was a down year for Kelvin Banks, look, I don't know.
Yeah.
A little surprised.
That right there. They just showed the one sack that Kelvin Banks gave up all year. And it was Quinn Ewers not stepping up in the pocket.
Yeah.
But he had a bad year, CJ.
I couldn't believe it. A little perplexing right there. Yeah, but hey, that's great for Kelvin. And it's great for Texas to get kind of that, monkey off your chest when it comes to, not having an offensive lineman selected in the first round since 2002. Kelvin Banks, 5-star guy from day one, came in, won the job in fall camp, really, and was basically the best offensive lineman in Texas history for, about 25 years?
He won the Lombardi and the Outland. I mean, come on now.
It's tough to do.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great career at Texas. Cardinals, they wouldn't go. They could, would they?
Go back-to-back rounds, back-to-back drafts with the first-round wide receiver. Could happen.
I wouldn't do it if I was them. They could, though. They could. I think that would be ill-advised. I played for the Detroit Lions. Remember, they kept drafting all those wide receivers back to back, Charles Rogers and Roy Williams. That's usually not.
They finally got it right. They finally got it really right with Calvin Johnson.
Exactly. They finally, it took them like 6 tries to do it.
Yes.
That's not the way you build an organization. You build it usually from trenches and quarterback. You can do it wide receivers, but this is not considered, guys, an elite wide receiver draft at the top.
No,
Even with I love Matthew Golden, but there are a lot of people that don't think Matthew Golden is a first round pick. The analytical community does not like Matthew Golden as a first round pick. The film community loves him as a first round pick, but the eye test loves him as a first round pick, but the analytical community does not. There you go. Jahdae could go to Arizona. That is a possibility.
Rod, we were talking about grades a little bit ago. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, and he's got plenty of sources around the league. So a lot of these draft guys do. I think he said he had 14 guys that had first round grades, but I think he said the grade between player 15 on his board and like player 48 was almost virtually the same.
Yeah.
So pretty much mid one to like probably mid second round. It's a lot of depth at that part of the draft. To Bobby's point, it's probably why we haven't seen a ton of trades.
Yep, that's the question.
There's no reason to trade.
Yeah.
Good point.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the first year in quite a while that every team has one first round pick. And, we've not seen another team come back in. Maybe we do at the end of the first round, but for quite a while, everybody, for the most part, trades a first rounder here and there. You got teams with 2. A few years ago, we had a few teams with 3. Right now, all 32 teams make up all 32 picks, and that's pretty rare. I think that draft capital means a lot this year.
Yeah.
So
well, and the first time, since your point, JC, 1967. It's never happened in the common draft to have all 32 teams have their pick at this point, which, I mean, it goes to the lack of quarterbacks that normally you would trade up to go get a quarterback, and there isn't one outside of Cam Ward. And, the Giants, Browns, some other teams try to trade up with the Browns or with the Titans, but the Titans weren't coming off the pick. And so here we are. And people, as you've said, Bobby, are sticking with their pick because we're about to get to the end of the first round grades, I would guess. And I have to think Jahdae Barron has one, and I would guess Matthew Golden has one because, the next 2 Arizona's pick is in. Then it's Cincinnati, who probably goes defense, I would guess, based on the investment they've made in their offense, and they're trying to get, the franchise tag T. Higgins on top of signing Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. They've got to have cheap labor on defense. They've got to take defensive players, I would guess. And then Seattle might be a Matthew Golden spot because DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are gone. It's really Jackson Smith and Jigba now, only there with Sam Darnold. So, but their offensive line also needs work. But Walter Nolan is the pick.
Walter Nolan. There you go.
I like that. That was the number 1 player in the high school ranks coming out of Tennessee. Went to A&M, went to Arizona, and
got that Aggie money.
Went to Tennessee, Ole Miss, and now to Arizona. He's an elite talent. I mean, character and maturity have been kind of a question for him about his practice habits. But man, there's no Bobby. You've seen that kid. There's no doubting the talent on him.
He's a tremendous talent, but has almost always been more talent than production. I think that he obviously spent his first 2 years at A&M and then went to Ole Miss last year as part of the deconstruction of that number 1 recruiting class that A&M had. I got to be – I don't love the pick, guys. I'm sorry. How often do guys just turn it on in the NFL?
Yep.
I mean, I'm not trying to be – it's just one of those guys I wouldn't have picked here. Is he that talented? No question. Would I have picked him here personally if it were my team? No chance. And I think there's people at Texas A&M that were his teammates and coaches that would tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm just
all right.
Doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean I'm right, but I would have went a different direction. But now again, it's the NFL. Sometimes guys do turn it on when it matters. I like guys that I don't have to worry about whether or not the switch is going to be flipped.
I like that. I thought this year in his final year at Ole Miss, he produced, and his numbers would tell you that pressure rate and whatnot. And he was dragged all on some SEC linemen. But you're right. Over the course of time, in his 4 years in college, he was not productive enough to be the 16th pick in the draft. And that's what you're. When you give him all that money, he's already made money through NIL. When you give him this new contract, does he get more productive, more locked in? That becomes the question for any of these teams. Because he really is a top 10 talent when it comes down to it, Jeff.
Yeah, I just look at stuff like I think the last time the Cardinals drafted a Ole Miss defensive lineman in the first round was Robert Kimdichie, and that didn't work out too good.
Oh
No.
yeah, I remember that.
Robert Kimdichie. That's a name from the past. Nice job, Jeff.
Swing and a miss. Yeah.
Well, Cincinnati, am I right that they're going defense here? I mean, they kind of have to. When you invest that much money in your salary cap on offense, yeah, they kind of have to go defense.
That's they're right now the Texas Tech equivalent of the NFL. They'll score 50, they'll allow 60, and lose games in which they shouldn't. And I've long said I'll never see another good defense in Lubbock. And I mean, maybe Mr. Clearman up there will have something to say about that, but
Cody Campbell,
Cody, there it is. But we'll see.
Double Eagle money guy. Look, to y'all's point with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all those guys, they've got to be able to stop somebody at some point. But I don't think it's going to be any one player that does that at this point in the draft.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Jahdae Barron would be a very smart pick for them because he's just such a solid player to play corner for them and try to deal with that. But it's that meat and potatoes division we've talked about. But last year, if you go back and look at Joe Burrow's numbers, Rod, it was an MVP year. I mean, he was almost 5,000 yards. He was 40-some touchdowns. Yet they still lost because it was like 43-37 to CJ's Texas Tech point. I mean, historically, like if you look at Joe Burrow's year, I mean, guys like Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, they had these kind of years, and they won the MVP those years. They went pretty much 500 because the defense couldn't stop anybody.
No, they had a top 5 quarterback and a top 5 basic receiver too. Jamar Chase had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
Then they had a top 5 kind of edge rusher because Trey Hendrickson had a hell of a year. They were the best bad team in the NFL.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. They were a bad team. They're the best bad team.
Nobody wanted to play them though.
Exactly, because they had so many good players, but they were still a bad team. So I think they got to go. As long as you got a quarterback and you got weapons like they have, you're good. I think on defense they could go anybody in the back 7, pretty much. Trey Hendrickson still gives you a force on the front. If I'm them, I'm with you. Jahdae Barron gives you 2 and 1. He gives you like 2 or 3 DBs in 1 potentially. So it would be a nice pickup for him. I don't know a linebacker that they would fall in love with this early on in this draft could be.
Jihad Campbell from Alabama would be the guy.
There's
also the safety, the really elite athletic safety from South Carolina.
Oh yeah, he's a freak.
The Bengals are going defense, but it's not going to be Jahdae Barron.
Is it Shamar Stewart, Will Johnson?
I think we're sticking with the theme of the 2022 Texas A&M recruiting class.
Here we go.
Shamar Stewart.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually like that better than Walter Nolan. So there you go.
I'll say this about the Walter Nolan pick though, real quick, Bobby and Rod. Jonathan Gannon having been on that Eagle staff. Maybe he's thinking, hey, we'll build it like Philly did and just start loading up on athletic, high ceiling defensive linemen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We talked about it around the time of the combine. Those combine cuties, as I call them, turn into draft darlings. Whenever people go out there, they put up big numbers, they test really well, they get that RAS score that is all green and starts lighting up some of those metrics and analytics. Folks like to envision them carrying over that elite athleticism to the NFL and producing more than they ever had in college. And that's where you start to get in trouble. And I think Stewart specifically is that number 1 guy who has 3.5 sacks over 3 years at Texas A&M, yet going number 17 right here to the Bengals. So we'll see how that works out. But the athleticism, 6'6", 290, off the charts.
Yeah, you and I, CJ, we were at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. He's a freak. He and Walter Nolan were monsters there. But yeah, where's the production? Both guys. I mean, this is why they're down here. They probably have top 10 ability, but where's the production you're looking for? Bengals have to go defense though here, and looks like Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M.
Hey, look at this from Leo. Jake Major stuffed Shamar Stewart in a locker too. Wow.
He did.
Jake Major has played now against how many of these draft picks?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Kelvin Banks too. Kelvin Banks too.
Shamar Stewart.
Hey, Rod Babers, can you tell our great folks here on a Thursday night draft by draft or pick by pick coverage here on the NFL draft? we're still waiting on Matthew Golden. We're still waiting on a pick of Jahdae Barron. But tell them about Flat Creek. Flat Creek, please.
Yes, we love our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, folks, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. I'm a big fan of it. Me and my family actually have enjoyed a little bit of Super Texan over the holidays. You'll love it too. They actually have it available at your local Specs. I saw a display at our local Central Market here as well. So the good word is getting out about the fantastic wines over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Of course, Flat Creek, also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with that very special significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. Go check it out for yourself. Really appreciate them and their ongoing support of On Texas football.
Dang, Shamar Stewart just hugged the commissioner, and I think he probably broke his back. I think he whacked him pretty good. That guy gave him a
Oh yeah, that was a little aggressive.
Yeah, he may have dislocated a vertebrae or two there.
That might have been a slip disc right there. He gave him a good kidney punch right there. Hey, Shamar, settle down, Bob. Goodell's like, you can tell he locked the wind out of him a little bit. Oh, God, let me hold on to you for a second. But yeah, Shamar Stewart is off the board. That puts Seattle and then Tampa Bay. And again, I know we're talking Texas guys, but I mentioned Seattle. They probably need to upgrade the O-line, but they spent a lot of money in free agency on the O-line. This could be a Matthew Golden thing. When you trade DK Metcalf, when you let Tyler Lockett move on, and you're down to, JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, a Texas receiver from Ohio State, you could be looking at Matthew Golden here. And I think Tampa, the betting odds in Vegas for Jahdae Barron, it was over under 18.5 coming into this. And CJ, you would know that probably better than anybody. So we're right in that spot for Jahdae Barron, according to Vegas. Same with Matthew Golden. They were kind of in this little wheelhouse of 18, 19, 20.
There's a chance, guys, Shedeur Sanders' wait might be over because there's rumor and innuendo on the Twitter machine that the Giants are talking to the Seahawks about this 18th pick right here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, interesting.
Okay, Giants thinking they took Abdul Carter. Did they come back up? This was kind of a thought that they would be exploring this option if Shedeur dropped. Because you kind of know you got to get ahead of Pittsburgh at 21.
Yep.
If you're going to go Shedeur, you got to get Pittsburgh's lurking here 3 or 4 picks from now, and a lot of people think Mike Tomlin likes Shedeur. He and Dion have talked. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Good stuff there, Jeff Howe.
I actually wouldn't hate that, in the sense that I'm a Cowboys fan, and I'd like to.
Yeah.
And look, I do think Shedeur could be a really good NFL quarterback given an offensive line in front of him. And that's one thing that the Giants have just failed to do since the days of Eli Manning, right? It was Brandon Jacobs was really the last time that they've had a time in which a consistent offensive line was prevalent. I mean, look, they had Saquon Barkley putting up, 1,100 yard seasons, and most of that was coming after contact. They've yet to really piece together that offensive line. If they want to go with a quarterback whose mobility is not a strength, hey, who's to stop him?
Hey, Rod, weren't you and David Deal in the same draft class with the Giants? Was David Deal?
Yeah, I believe so. The old lineman, right?
Yeah, because I think about those Giants lines as the Super Bowl years of David Deal, Chris Snee.
Mm-hmm.
They just had some guys that don't look great getting off the bus, but just mean, big, nasty dudes.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. And no, this with the Seattle Seahawks, they could go Golden or Barron, just because the Barron thing makes a lot more sense because the way they're building their secondary, and they got a defensive-minded head coach in McDonald now, especially in that division. So I can see them doing that. And they got with the wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
That's it.
Cooper Kupp. Didn't they get Cooper Kupp?
They did. They signed Cooper Kupp. They have Noah Fant. Noah Fant playing tight end for them.
Yeah. So
former Denver tight end. I mean, they brought in Sam Darnold.
They could go either
one.
The
pick is in, so there's no Shedeur trade here. This is unless
Matthew or Jahdae. It could be, but I'm not saying it's going to be. But it could be. They need both of them. Type of players.
The word is the Giants are also trying to talk to It sounds like the Giants are trying to get ahead of Pittsburgh to take Shedeur Sanders
because they see he's dropping. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Let me ask you about Shedeur. We'll if
by the way, Gray Zabel is the pick. The North Dakota State.
That kid is unbelievable.
I like him a lot.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Houston Texans fans are bumming because Kelvin Banks, Gray Zabel, and Tyler Booker are all gone. They were trying to move up, take one of those three guys. Zabel, and look, if you're gonna give Sam Darnold $100 million, you got to protect him. He's all quarterbacks suffer with or struggle with pressure, but he in particular, and Zabel was a monster at the Senior Bowl. You and I were there, CJ.
Yeah,
Bobby, you had a question about. Go ahead, Siege.
Real quick, Bobby. I mean, if you're going to take a guard at 12, this was the guy. He's unbelievable. North Dakota State is a pipeline in terms of these type of guys. Again, he was the most dominant offensive lineman I saw in Mobile, and it wasn't remotely close. He was throwing SEC bodies in and out of breaks in team settings and one-on-ones. He was head and shoulders the best guy that I saw that weekend. So
if you ever want to know what's happened to Nebraska football, I mean, North Dakota State's getting more guys in the NFL than Nebraska.
Dang.
Well said. That's well said.
I'm going to put that out there right now.
Seriously, that's crazy.
And look, I think that whether that Zabel, I haven't watched enough of him. I know that he was the talk of the Senior Bowl. CJ, to your point, I have no problem with these kind of picks because they're very safe, especially if they're in a down year draft. Apparently, is what a lot of people are saying this is. Linemen, traditionally, you're at least going to get 4 to 5 good years out of them, right? Whereas if you go a wide receiver there, you may not get what you're really paying for. So I'm good with that. I had a question though for Rod on this Shedeur Sanders thing. Is there any way you could ever see Shedeur Sanders being a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? A top 5 quarterback. Like, do you ever see him being better than Jordan Love? You ever? I mean, I'm just
Jordan Love. Can he be better than Jordan Love? Probably. Jordan Love's not. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback.
I don't either, but that's the kind of guy I think he is.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, if I think that's a very good approximation to me for him.
Okay.
For sure.
I would think Jordan Love looked really good when he beat the Cowboys that year in the playoffs.
Yeah, but,
He looked good handing the ball off. Let's be honest there.
But no, I agree.
Watch your dirty mouth, Rod Babers.
Is he special enough to be a franchise-changing player? I like the quarterbacks in this draft. I don't love them. So to that point, I would say no. I'd probably say no. I don't bank on him being a franchise-changing quarterback that can turn you into a Super Bowl contender. But those guys exist. Like Jaden, people didn't see Jay Daniels as that guy. He was. Like he turned out to be definitely that guy. And recently we've seen like the second quarterback taken actually have more success than the first quarterback taken.
Yeah.
It's also strange.
Well, I've also seen Shedeur Sanders comp. A lot of the draft insiders have, or at least the evaluators have said, kind of a Jared Goff type player, very accurate, can push the ball down the field. And Jared Goff was drafted high. I don't even know if he's that. But at the same time, the Rams decided he was not an elite quarterback and sent him to Detroit, and they put really good talent around him. And now he's kind of the point guard of their offense in Detroit. But can Shedeur Sanders be that? I think is a fair question. But he also comes with, I don't know. I would think as a coach, you're dealing with, are you going to hear from Deion every Monday if the game plan wasn't what you wanted it to be? I don't know if that'll happen, but there was a Yahoo story that Deion's already calling coaches and criticizing them for some comments. And it's like, man, I don't want to deal with that. I don't need Deion, talking about, how bad our coaching staff is every week. I don't know if he'll do that, but just the unknown. Plus, you guys who cover recruiting know, he's been playing for his dad his whole life. I mean, this will be the first coach he's ever played for that's not Deion. That's got to be at least leave some question. We talked earlier about eliminating uncertainties. How's he going to react to being coached by someone that's not his dad? Those have to be taken into account too.
Yeah. Apparently, he hasn't been coached by anybody but his dad since the 9th grade, right?
Right, exactly. Because he was at Prime Prep, and then he was at Fort Worth Christian, where he was the offensive coordinator, then Jackson State. So, again, that's why I think Pittsburgh's a real good spot for him. Mike Tomlin would, I think, be a good guidepost for him. But yeah, either way, that's been kind of the read on Shedeur. His talent is not to a point where it's so great that I'll eliminate those uncertainties. So it's one of those. I mean, I would just say this. I'm not trying to bash Shedeur Sanders here.
Okay, so I think he's worthy of an NFL roster and possibly a potential starter one day. So I think he's in that category. My question is, if you're looking to trade into the first round this year, you're going to give up a first round pick next year.
Yeah.
And if you're the Giants, it's probably going to be higher than the number 19 pick you give them right now.
You're right about that.
You know what I mean? And so, or maybe they, to y'all's point earlier, maybe they are trying to trade Kayvon Thibodeau. Yeah, that's the package. But
yeah, that's what I would wonder if you put Thibodeau in it. Because if you draft Abdul Carter and you traded for Brian Burns from Carolina last year, Thibodeau becomes, because he's on that back end, he's 2022 class, so he's getting close to a new contract. If you're taking Carter, you're probably moving off from Thibodeau.
The reason that Shedeur would be a better fit for the Steelers than the Giants is because the Giants kind of operate like most NFL franchises. Job security matters to them. Right? So if the Steelers about to get fired, the head coach about to be fired, we better draft a quarterback right now that can save our damn job. The Steelers don't operate like that. Steelers don't. That's not how they do business. Right? The Steelers no, we don't. They've had 3 coaches in the last 50, 60 years. That's not how they do business. So for Shedeur, if you want stability and a team that will give you a legitimate shot at being a franchise quarterback without giving up on you too soon and without dealing with the crazy New York media and then this turnover and instability and all the lack of continuity, because there's probably going to be a coaching change there again soon. The Steelers are the way to. You want to pray that you go to the Steelers, because the Steelers, they're not going to let social media or the media influence what the hell they're going to do. Mike Tomlin will be there till Mike Tomlin's ready to go. Yeah. That's just how they do business.
Let's go on receiver, but it's not Matthew Golden right here.
Yeah, Emeka Egbuka is the pick out of Ohio State, which again, I mean, he and Matthew Golden are very similar players, wore the same number. They remind me of one another, but Egbuka is the pick out of Ohio State to Tampa. Mike Evans can't play forever. What's that, CJ?
A bit surprising. I mean, Mike Evans still putting up 1,000 yards a year. They did that in the last week of the season. They just re-signed Chris Godwin to an extension. And look, they went Jalen McMillan out of Washington last year in the second round, who was getting a lot of good play without Chris Godwin, who was dinged up a little bit this year. So, look, that's 4 guys at a position that certainly could have been addressed on the defensive side of the ball for the Bucs. But look, I think Egbuka is really talented. I think he's a guy that gets overshadowed, obviously, because of Jeremiah Smith, a former 5-star guy. Texas obviously very familiar with him from their time in the Cotton Bowl. A little bit fortunate they don't have to see him next fall, but he's a smart, savvy guy who understands zone coverage and is talented enough to beat just about any guy in man coverage out of the slot specifically. With Godwin, with Evans, and with McMillan, whose targets does he take? I think as a number 1 overall pick, I have to imagine you're going to start seeing McMillan become that 4th guy. And we'll see if maybe they move on from Mike Evans, who's aging pretty quickly here.
I think that's the plan, CJ, is that Evans and Godwin are getting older. And now Baker Mayfield is playing his best football of his career.
Yep.
So it's like, now we got to reinvest in Baker Mayfield, who's now actually playing like a franchise quarterback all of a sudden. He's found like his groove, right? His center, his identity as a quarterback. So I think that's what they're doing. They know Mike Evans is only got, 1 or 2 more years. He missed 3 or 4 games last year. Chris Godwin's get a little bit older. So I think that's what they're thinking. Just keep rebuilding our strength of ours around our franchise quarterback. Look at the ecosystem of that division. Who can win that division?
Tampa.
Exactly. We got the only damn quarterback that can win the division, arguably.
Yeah, we'll see what Penix can do. But hey, to your point, I mean, Cade Otton was found money towards the back end of that year and is now going to be one of those top 7, 8 tight ends in all the NFL going into next fall. I was just a little surprised there. I thought they tried to go defense, considering, hey, your offense put up enough points.
Yeah,
you found something with that running game late in the year. Look, maybe surprising, but that's why I'm sitting on my couch over here.
I could get with the Broncos on the clock. I don't know what their needs are off the top of my head, but I can get down with them taking Jahdae. They've already got 4 Longhorns on that roster.
Sean Payton loves
TJ Locke, Brandon Jones, and Malcolm Roach.
It's true.
I think Denver is going offensive playmaker here. I don't know who that's going to be. Sean Payton's talked about that a lot, that they have to get someone for Bo Nix. I mean, Courtland Sutton Touchdowns. Yeah. They need, whether it's Sean Payton's been pretty open about it. It's like, we need kind of our Alvin Kamara. We need a difference maker, whether it's a tight end, a receiver, or a running back. I could see Omarion Hampton here for them. Their defense was top 4 in the league last year for Vance Joseph. So I think they're going offense. That would be my guess. I'm looking at some video from one of the local TV guys. The watch party, as you said, Bobby, for Jahdae Barron is packed with people. Yes. Everybody's waiting for Jahdae to get picked. They're ready up there in Pflugerville, Texas, and looking forward to Jahdae getting picked.
A lot of current Longhorns were going up there. I talked to a couple parents that were going up there with them, with their kids and stuff like that. It's going to be a party. Hopefully everything works out good there. I want to go back to this. Mbika Abeka, underrated in the fact that he holds the Ohio State record for receptions in a career.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, we talked about how the last 10 years they've just had receiver after receiver. He holds the record for most receptions.
Yeah, that's good.
In a career. So he's consistent. I don't know that he does anything that scares me, though. Like, that I worry a little bit about that kind of guy. We'll see whether he works out.
Good thought.
What y'all said, playmaker
for Denver.
And I saw a lot of people love the Omarion Hampton kid out of
North Carolina.
The running back. A lot.
You wonder. I mean, they're on the clock. The pick's not in. Rod, you and I talked earlier. Trader Nick, cooking with Nick. This would be a spot where Houston would try to come up. If Denver go back and get Omarion Hampton at 25, Houston
or Henderson at Ohio State.
What's that?
Or the running back from Ohio State at 25.
You got Travion. Well, pick's in.
Oh, they
picked in. Won't be a trade. Thank you, Matthew. Good job. I got to think unless Houston is now, as I was told, the Texans were all in on 3 offensive linemen.
They wanted their linemen. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, they wanted Banks, they wanted Gray Zabel, or they wanted Tyler Booker. Yeah. Cowboys took Booker. Zabel went to the Seahawks. Kelvin went 9 overall, and Houston was kind of fearful of that. That's why they're trying to move up. But obviously, you got to have a 2 to tango on a trade like that.
They may trade down. They honestly. If none of the guys they like are there, they may decide to trade down and go get more picks either for next year or get more picks later on in the draft.
Yeah.
I think, but they're missing like a 4th round pick or somewhere around there. They may decide, hey, let's drop and pick up one of those later picks to get a guy if none of their guys are. Because I'm with you. I thought they were hoping one of those linemen would drop, and none of them dropped. And at this point, I don't know if they want to move up because remember we talked about there probably aren't more than 20 first-round grades on most teams' boards. So we're right at the point now.
Remember, Houston traded back last year early before the draft and got the 40th pick, took Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia, who turned out to be an all-rookie corner for them. You're right. I mean, if you're a Texans fan out there watching, I mean, you're thinking Josh Connerly, you're thinking Connolly out of Oregon, you're thinking Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. As far as linemen go, Matthew Golden. But what do you think? What did you? I saw your fist pump, Jeff. What are we doing? You're muted. You're muted. Just muted. What do you got?
Needs.
Yeah, I think the phone just rang in Pflugerville with a Denver area code on it.
Oh! Wow! There we go. Another Longhorn in Colorado.
That 303 coming through.
It's only right Sean Payton ends up with another horn. It was written in the stars years ago, and now he's got another.
Good call.
Oh, yeah. Way to go, Jahdae.
That's very cool.
Signed with Baylor originally, guys.
There's a Matt Rule.
For Matt Rule, right?
Yep. Backed out of it late or after the fact, after signing, right?
I mean,
he signed. He had signed, and then Matt Rule took the job with the Panthers. And Jahdae, I've asked Jahdae about it. He wouldn't really get into it, but essentially, he just wasn't vibing with Dave Aranda for whatever reason. But always wanted to be at Texas, and ended up working out for him.
Do y'all? I'm sure it won't take you guys too long to know this answer, but the last first-round defensive back from the University of Texas.
Well, the last first-round defensive back was Kenny Vaccaro.
Kenny Vaccaro, there you go. I mean,
Vaccaro,
look, it didn't take you guys very long at all.
Yeah.
Well, how about that, Rod? I mentioned they had a top 5 defense, and now you got Jahdae Barron and Patrick Surtain. That's you
Well,
use the ecosystem of your division.
Exactly. That's to say, well, yeah, a lot of times, guys, you got to look at the ecosystem these guys are dealing with. Like, what do we see every damn day? Right? This is what they always say. Americans vote on what they see every day. I see economics every day. My eggs are too damn expensive. Like, that's what I'm voting on. Like that kind of stuff. NFL teams are the same way. What do I see every day? I see Patrick freaking Mahomes. I got to deal with every damn day. I can deal with the best quarterback and the best offensive play caller and the best QB every damn year. Right? Season to season, 2 times a year. I got to get out of I got to become the king of my ecosystem before I can ever think about winning a Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is far out from some of these teams. If you're like 3rd in your damn division, why the hell are you thinking about a Super Bowl? You got to win your ecosystem first, man. Can you be the king on that mountain, right? Can you be the number 1 alpha, the alpha predator, right? Can you be the super predator in your own division? And that's what they're thinking about. That's why they're going defense, because they know, are we ever going to have the best quarterback in the division? No, you got no shot, right? But you can be the best defense in the division. Boom, keep that up.
Yeah, that's well. I mean, you get Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and now Geno Smith. I mean, you got to be able to defend, and their pass rush is pretty dang good. And man, Jahdae Barron, Patrick Surtain. And look at that as they put up on ESPN. Dre Greenlaw in free agency, Nick Benito, Zach Allen. They've added pieces on defense. They also brought in the safety from the 49ers in free agency. That defense is going to be outstanding.
Jahdae also gets to join former Longhorns. How about PJ Locke and Brandon Jones in that secondary? So,
yep,
you're looking for any type of example of the return of DBU. Look no further than Denver.
Yeah. All right, so Kelvin Banks 9, Denver Broncos take Jahdae Barron 20. So 2 Longhorns off the board, waiting on Matthew Golden. Now Pittsburgh is on the clock. Hey, I saw a tweet from you, CJ, a little bit ago before you joined us. Did Mel Kiper really say that Kelvin Banks did not have a good year this year?
Yeah, word for word, bar for bar. It was a little surprising there, Aaron. I know we talked about it briefly earlier, but I couldn't believe it. 1 sack and 538 pass protection snaps, and as we talked about, it probably goes on the tally of the quarterback self sack. But yeah, a bit surprising there from Mel Kiper.
So somebody, I think that's living rent free in UT, said, didn't Sean Payton select Vaccaro?
Yes.
In New Orleans, he did.
Yes.
To your point about him being the last first-round DB, CJ.
Well, I thought offensive playmaker, but at some point, values just. I mean, you were talking about the first-round grades. I mean, the Jahdae's he and Matthew Golden, I think, you're running out of first-round graded players, and so
yep.
Now Pittsburgh's on the board, and we've seen the Shedeur Sanders conversation here. But man,
let's see if that Shedeur Sanders conversation was all just smoke screen.
That Steelers pick went in really quick. They were not on the clock very long.
It's in. Woo, it's in. It's in. But think about
I was going to say, I mean, is it a smoke screen or is it who they wanted at 21?
I think it's Shedeur because the Steelers. Because Mike Tomlin is so good as a coach. I love me some Mike Tomlin. He was my DB coach when I was in Tampa. Love me some Mike Tomlin. They're never bad enough to draft a good QB or have a QB kind of fall to them. That Kenny Pickett experiment didn't work because he makes the playoffs every damn year. At least has a winning record. Has a winning record every damn year. They're always drafting in the middle of the draft, if the bottom, all right, in later rounds of the NFL draft in the first round. So they never have a chance to get a quarterback unless they move up, and the Steelers traditionally don't do that. So this is why this is a special situation if they could get a guy, but I don't even know if they're taking him. Did they take him? Are they taking it? Are they taking him?
No. Derek Johnson, defensive tackle, Oregon.
So at this point for me, we're looking at teams saying, do my quarterbacks next year, do I value them more than Shedeur Sanders? Because you're looking at a Nussmeier, you're looking at a number of guys right now, a K. Klubnik perhaps. We'll see what that group looks like, but I think that's a lot of teams right now picking elsewhere. It's not Shedeur Sanders saying, yeah, I'll test my luck next year, especially the Giants, who might be saying, wait, we might be the only team looking for a quarterback this year, and we're not ready to roll it with, Jameis Winston this in 2025.
I'll tell you what, we've seen it work for some teams where, Baltimore went back into the first round to get Lamar in 18. But it can also be a blessing in disguise if you don't. Keep in mind, the Cowboys in the 16 draft kept trying to figure out a way to get back into the first round to get Paxton Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
Then tried to figure out a way to maneuver to get in front of the Raiders to get Connor Cook. Couldn't get it done. And they ended up with Dak Prescott in the 4th round with a compensatory pick. So,
yeah, good pick. It's a good pick. Yeah, that worked out for them.
Sometimes it's overrated to be. And you know, I'll say this too, man. The teams like the Steelers and the Giants that don't get a quarterback in round 1, that you got to figure like that's bodes well for Quinn going into tomorrow, because at some point, like the Giants, at some point they got to take a quarterback. The Steelers at some point have to take a quarterback. The Saints probably at some point have to take a quarterback.
But it's not good that all
have a running back right now.
They're all sliding now, so that's not good for Quinn. What you wanted was somebody to take a chance on a quarterback earlier in the first, and then all right, teams are looking for a quarterback. They're like, you know what, we're gonna pay Quinn the second because all the good quarterbacks off the board. Now you still got quality quarterbacks dropping. That ain't good for Quinn, in my opinion.
You're right.
I gotta ask you here, who's the running back for the Chargers right now?
Oh, it's not
J.K. Dobbins still there?
Cowboys.
Didn't they sign somebody? J.K. is a free agent.
I would go running back here if I were them, because they've got either him or match somebody with Ladd McConkey.
Right now, they're running back Najee Harris, Hassan Haskins.
Yeah, that's right. They signed Najee Harris from the Steelers in free agency.
Yeah, Kamani Vidal. They don't really have. He's the only game changer they have there.
Jim Harbaugh couldn't get him to Ann Arbor, but finally got him on his roster all these years later.
If I can throw this last, we didn't talk much about Derrick Harmon here out of Oregon. Every Steelers defense I've ever known has basically been led by a Hayward up front. You know, just a dog in that defensive line. I think Derrick Harmon,
Casey Hampton back in the day.
Yeah, look, I think he absolutely can be a guy just like that for them. He was unreal at the Senior Bowl as well. Just another guy who physically up front in person, different looking body. And I know this is a good defensive tackle class. To get him at 21 for the Steelers, really good pick.
Didn't Casey go like 19, 20, or 21?
Somewhere
he did.
I think so.
Yeah. You're right, CJ. But that is a total Steelers pick. I mean, to Rod's point, I mean, they don't draft. They've had 3 coaches in 60 years. They don't draft like other. They don't draft from a perspective of fear.
Yeah, they stick to the recipe and it works.
Yeah, they have a process, no doubt. And they need that guy because Cam Hayward's 30-something years old now, like mid-30s now, is he not?
That's true. Yeah, he is. Yeah, you're right.
Rod, can you
have
believe
that guy at the point?
Can you believe
for sure.
I sent Rod. I sent to the group. I sent the little graphic I saw of your DB year, Terrence Newman and Mike Dawson, Palomalu. So some good first round DBs. Can you believe we got through 19 picks in this draft before a defensive back was taken? Today was the first DB taken. Yeah.
Well, Travis Hunter is like the unicorn, so nobody counts him as a wide receiver or a DB. But you're right. Yeah. I agree. It is. To me, it's a little surprising, but I think it does support the narrative of the draft that they think it's a down draft. So the premium positions, a lot of them, which are quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, right? Those have not been they have not been the most coveted positions in this draft. We've seen we've seen multiple. We've seen 2 tight ends for God's sakes already, right? This is a different kind of draft, I think, early on. So I just think it's this may be an outlier of a draft. I'm a little surprised by that too, though. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I got one more little nugget for you guys on the Jahdae to Denver pick. I'm not sure if y'all saw it in the chat, or I don't know if y'all mentioned it at all, but Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator for Denver, cousins with Terry Joseph, who was the Texas quarterback.
There you go. That's a good one. Yeah.
I did not know that at all. That is a hell of a nugget, CJ. Damn. Good.
Hey, Matt Hutchinson, please check your phone. I've got something from Jahdae Barron's deal that I want to play for everybody. From his, had a friend of mine tape a little bit of his celebration, if you don't mind, Matt. If you
hey, Rod, just on the DB front, there are growing concerns on the Twitter machine. This is typically when the injury news gets out on guys. apparently teams did not like Will Johnson's knee when going through the evaluation process.
Yep.
So he has looks like Will Johnson might have been medically red flagged at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
When you do everything you can to not run a 40, whether it be the Michigan Pro Day, the Combine, or any of these Senior Bowls, that is a red flag. And that's absolutely some of the scuttlebutt that was around, Mobile is, we're not going to see Will Johnson participate because, he's not 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's well said. If you don't run the 40 and you have a red flag medical, yeah, that's bad.
That's bad. Yep. I agree. I don't know why he didn't run the 40. I thought it was just because he was slow. Maybe it's because he was hurt. Some people thought like he knew he was so slow in the 40. Like he's not going to run the 40, but maybe just because he was dealing with an injury, and that's not why he didn't run either. So
I've not seen anything.
Rod, I think he ran a 4.4 laser in high school.
Okay, so he can run.
So he can run. That's right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It may be really hurt.
Yeah.
That sucks, man. That sucks for that kid.
This pick at 22, if I could call a shot, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I've not seen anything, Jeff. Has anything hit? But this would make a lot of sense to get a true wide receiver one for Justin Herbert here.
Yeah,
because it's
not
not
Lad McConkey,
we all know that.
Lad's a beast. Lad McConkey's a good young player, man.
Yeah,
I'd love to see Matthew Golden here to that team.
That's a good point. They've missed on a couple of wide receivers they've drafted early. And they got Quentin Johnston, who I think they're still waiting to see if he's a guy that breaks out for them. Invested an early round draft pick in him. I think Jalen Reagor is on that team. I mean, they don't have much at wide receiver.
I tell you, seeing Quentin Johnston in high school at Temple was unreal. And his high school quarterback was Jared Wiley at the time. Watching the two of them in a postseason game, they actually played Mesquite Horn, who was led by Kendrick Blackshire at the time. So a lot of worlds connecting in that game, but Quentin Johnston was unbelievable there. Unfortunate for him, the hands haven't translated since getting drafted first round from TCU, and that's really where the big concern, frustration for the Chargers have been.
Hands and doing everything right every time.
Yeah.
That's been the issue with Quentin. Was Joe Alt last year a good pick?
Yes,
for the Chargers?
Very good.
He was.
Okay.
Yeah, he anchors their right side.
They went offensive line here too. I mean, just Jim Harbaugh does that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like somebody like Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, maybe, who is really talented. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. I agree. That's hardball ball. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Remember, they have Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, who's a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle. They've got Joe Alt playing right tackle. I think they got to go playmaker. If you got a quarterback like Justin Herbert, man, you've got to give him guys to throw the football to. You saw the game last year in the playoffs against the Texans. I mean, Lad McConkey was the only guy to get open, like literally against Houston. That really was their only chance. They've got to get some more explosiveness on offense, in my opinion.
If they need anything on defense and he doesn't take Will Johnson here, being the fact that he was Will Johnson's head coach.
Yeah, you know a lot there.
That's everything you need to know.
Yeah, the doctor said don't do it. The doctor said don't do it.
Don't do it.
That's a tell, I guess.
Chargers are going offense, looks like, but not a receiver.
Running back?
Looks like they're going to Marion Hampton. That's the
okay. Running back.
Ground
pound. That's a hardball move. That's a hardball move.
That's a hardball move. Like I said, that makes it. That tracks with Jim Harbaugh. And they don't really have much at running back right now other than Najee Harris. I mean, that's really all they got at running back.
Hey, Matt, here, let's play this, guys. This is from Jahdae Barron announcement here.
Man.
I told you, all of Austin was there.
I love it, man. I love it.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Don't you like that?
Packed, man.
The whole athletic department's there. I did hear, Bobby, and to your point, there are a lot of former players, a lot of current players there. Very cool for Jahdae, but he also brought a lot of the support staff, a lot of the GAs, a lot of the player personnel guys, a lot of the guys student assistants who don't get a lot of shine, for them to enjoy this moment with him. Again, I can't speak highly enough about Jahdae, the person that he is, and the representative of the university that he will be and has been. Overall, just an awesome moment to be able to share that with the Texas family and really this community down here. Also, Jamal Shed, his good friend from Houston, now a Toronto Raptor.
Very cool. Another cool thing about Jahdae's draft party, saw this on Corey Mose at KView, started out with Bible study. Before the draft started, they had a Bible study there at the draft party. So I know Jahdae's big in his face, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, I know I was texting earlier. Fozzie Whitaker's there. He took his son with him, and he was going to be there tonight. So a lot of Longhorn love for Jahdae Barron and what he's doing. Hey, Omarion Hampton, guys, to the Chargers. Rod, you guys recently talked to Mac Brown. I mean, any thought on this guy? I mean, he's Ashton Genty was the number one back, but this kid, workhorse. Jim Harbaugh will wear out a running back, and they got Najee Harris as kind of that number two. Any thoughts on this young guy?
No, I know he became those kind of darlings of the off-season process that CJ talks about, and really skyrocketed up draft boards in the off-season. People watched his film, looked at his ability to be able to change direction. He's explosive. Is a guy that can really almost master any concept you want to run in the running game. So I think they just liked him all around, and as a receiving threat too. So I think they just liked him as an all-around running back. Other than Ashton Genty, obviously, was the top running back in the draft. He was seen as a guy that didn't have any weaknesses at all, any liabilities in his skill set. So well-rounded. I mean, to be a first-round running back these days is a hell of a compliment, man. Like it's way different than it was, 10, 15 years ago. A first-round running back these days, that's rare. I mean, that's a huge compliment to Omarion Hampton and what the upside they think he has as a player.
Well, here we are with Green Bay. Green Bay's on the clock. The crowd's going crazy, obviously. They're excited in Green Bay. Is this Matthew Golden? You going to get Jordan Love at number one?
They don't do first. I would say some teams have a lot of tendencies. They don't take a lot of first-round wide receivers. They could break that tendency. That's not usually what Green Bay does. They need a wide receiver, but you usually don't see them take a wide receiver in the first round. But like I said, things could change.
So apparently there's some scuttlebutt that team, the Chargers went down to the final seconds. The Chargers and the Packers apparently are getting a lot of trade calls from teams trying to get up into that spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can see that.
Look at that. There's only 300,000 people in that whole town. Where are they going to go tonight? Just look at that crowd. I mean, where are they going?
That crowd is packed.
That's unbelievable. There's not anything to do there.
Sorry for that one.
There is something. There's a casino.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
I saw Paul Horning gambling at that casino one time.
That's a shocker, Bobby.
Bobby, are you joking or are you serious?
I'm serious as a heart attack.
Yeah, you just aged yourself, Bobby. You shouldn't have said that. Is it Paul Horning? Damn.
This is only like 10 years ago. It wasn't like it was. I mean, he Paul Horning.
He got in trouble for gambling when he was playing back in the day. Did he not?
He lived hard.
That's good. How old is Paul Horning?
I think he's passed away now.
I know.
This is literally probably
to laugh at that. That is crazy.
2009.
1956 Heisman winner.
Oh my God. That's what I'm saying. Like Paul, I'm like, what? He's old school. Old school.
Well, I want to say this now. Green Bay is one of those teams that has players come back for every home game and do meet and greets. And the meet and greet was at the casino.
Okay.
Oh, I gotcha. That's cool.
Then they go play blackjack.
That is cool. Yeah.
That's Green Bay's one of those old school NFL teams. They do that at Pittsburgh as well.
Yeah, Daniel Lovell in the chat. Yeah, Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter's not a DB for me. He's his own. He's his own.
Yeah, I agree. He's unique. He's unique.
He's an athlete.
Yeah,
the rare athlete to be drafted.
Yep.
I will say one thing, guys, that Paul, they did do when the Bears were on the clock ahead of their pick of the tight end from Michigan. Michigan's had 3 players taken here in the first 24 picks. They did a great tribute to Mongo, Steve McMichael, which I thought was pretty nice that they did that. He passed away at the age of 67 yesterday. That was announced by Walter Payton's son. But Steve McMichael from Freer, Texas, to the University of Texas, to the NFL. And gosh, he's an all-decade player. He was a couple-time All-American at Texas. But yeah, they did a real nice tribute to him, which I thought was nice.
My man was killing rattlesnakes on the practice field in high school with his helmet.
Hey, does anybody know he's from Freer, which is south of San Antonio, heading to the border?
I believe it.
I was trying to figure this out. We were talking about this morning. Like he was drafted in the 3rd round. The last time the Longhorns had 3 players drafted in the 1st round was 1980.
Yeah,
and Mongo was drafted that year in the 3rd round. Patriots drafted him, but they released him after the 1st year, which makes no sense. I mean, then he went to the Bears, and he was an all-decade player. Went to was 3rd or 4th. Went to 2 times an All-Pro, 3 times a second-team All-Pro, all-decade team. I can't find anywhere of why the Patriots released him after 1 year.
That's a Cowboys move if I've ever heard of one.
Yeah. I don't know either. Like I said, I don't know. There could have been something happen, or it could have just been he's a bad.
He was known to raise a little,
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah.
There's no telling why that really happened.
Exactly.
I also
think his
read,
best friends would tell you that. So
I went down a Steve McMichael rabbit hole a couple of years ago. I think this is when he got into the Hall of Fame or he was up for it that I did this. But apparently when he got drafted by the Patriots, he had 2 pet rattlesnakes that he kept in his dorm in a cage and tried to transport them in his car, put them in his trunk, go from Austin to Boston. And I guess it was lack of oxygen or something. He gets to Boston and the snakes are dead. They didn't survive. They didn't survive the trip.
Well, you gotta think. I mean, he's from Freer. Freer is like now south of San Antonio. That's all the way to the border down there. That is way down there, and it's Freer. By the way, the high school nickname or mascot's the Buckaroos. The Buckaroos.
Built different right there, man. That's crazy. Transporting rattlesnakes. See?
This is
this young generation. That will never be as tough as that generation, man. Come on, man.
That's crazy.
We're about to see the 3rd and final Longhorn taken in the 1st round.
Oh man, Green Bay going 1st round wide receiver. Is that what you're saying, Jeffrey? I love it.
Oh, that'd be the first time since 2002. They hadn't done that since 2002.
Hey, take the best player on the board. That's the best player out there.
Javon Walker, the last receiver they took.
Javon Walker was the last one they did. 2002. It was the last time they drafted a wide receiver in the 1st round.
Florida State Seminole, great.
They never did that once for Aaron Rodgers. And as a fan of his, I can't believe it.
They did it for Jordan Love, though.
Yeah.
Watch this. Matthew Gold's about to get a big ovation, man. How cool.
Yeah, he is the guy in Green Bay tonight.
That's amazing.
Matthew Gold is the guy in Green Bay tonight. That's good for him.
There.
Yeah, I know. That's just terrific.
That is.
That's a pretty cool story. That's pretty amazing, actually.
Gosh, has any player raised their draft stock in 1 year from him? 1 year last year at this time to now? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I would say since December, nobody's draft stock has increased more than Matthew Golden. Those last, basically, the postseason, nobody played better in the postseason, arguably, in all of college football than Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
Basically, A&M on.
Yep, you can make the argument he's the best.
A&M on.
Yep, you can make that he's the best player in college football in the last, the postseason period.
I mean, when Isaiah Bond got hurt, Matthew Golden became wide receiver 1 and was a really good wide receiver 1 for that offense.
Yeah. Well, and then we go back to when we talk about Quinn Ewers, his best game was Michigan. Matthew Golden scored a couple touchdowns in that game, did he not? Red zone?
Yeah, yep. Red zone. He was one of your best red zone weapon for early part of the season.
Yeah. The one in the corner next to the pylon, pylon, that was a dagger.
Yeah.
That puts that game away.
Well, I said this to you this morning, Bobby, that it was Bob Shipley here on the On Texas channel that said Jackson, his son, said, man, this Matthew Golden, I go to practices, he's our best receiver. This guy's really, really good. He runs the routes. He's explosive. He's got great hands. He's tough, man. Rod, this is a DB. That's a tough guy to cover right there.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that the speed was shocking to everybody. I think it took the NFL a while to try to process that he ran a 4.29. And even to this day, there are a lot of draft analysts that don't believe the 4.29. They literally are jumping on the conspiracy theory saying something must have happened. There was a malfunction, but he doesn't play at that speed. And they use that as a way to knock him and say, well, he doesn't play as fast as 4.29, which I actually agree with. But I see it as the more upside that he has in the NFL. Because if he's that good and that fast, but he doesn't play at a 4.29, which I think most of us agree, then what if you got him a receiver coach that actually could get him to maximize his speed and route running? He's already considered an ass specialist. Ass being average separation score. That he has a big time separation score on average when he runs his routes from DBs. If that's the case, what if he actually ran him at a 4.29 speed? Which I think he doesn't actually run him now. I think he actually right now probably runs his routes at a 4.4 speed. I think him actually create more separation if he gets to the NFL and they can fine tune and refine his route running, which is already pretty elite in my opinion.
Yeah.
Future's so bright, you gotta wear shades, guys.
I love it. And those are nice. I'm sure they weren't cheap. But I would say this about Matthew. I mean, Bobby, you mentioned it earlier this morning. You know, he was the number 2 receiver at Houston. I mean, Tank Dell was there. Then they had Sam Brown. He comes to Texas. It's almost like he's almost becoming this guy. He's almost, he's a late bloomer at some level. Because I know in high school down in Klein, he was a high school track star. I mean, he's a really fast guy in high school running on the track field. Or on the track and then on the football field, but he's always been kind of that second guy, and it's almost like he's come into that, and now the NFL looks at him, and the Green Bay Packers have made him their first round wide receiver pick since 2002. Y'all said that's crazy. Yeah. Good for him. And look at that place. That place is going crazy.
And go to an organization like the Packers, who they know what they're doing, right? Yeah. And you can't say that for every organization in the league. And I played for a lot. I played for a few of them. You can't say now this organization knows what they're doing. The Green Bay Packers know what they're doing. And for them to invest in Matthew Golden first time for a first round wide receiver since 2002, I think it's a great compliment to him. We were just talking about how it's a really big compliment to be drafted in the first round as a running back these days. I think for the Green Bay Packers to draft you at the wide receiver position first time in the first round in over 20-some years says a lot about what they think about you.
Well, they're just taking best player available now, and I like that a lot. I mean, you had Jahdae Barron to the Broncos. They were probably leaning because they thought Amarion Hampton could be there for them, and he was. But, Jahdae Barron is too good to pass up for that defense in that division. And now, Matthew Golden to the Green Bay Packers. So pick 9, pick 20, and pick 24, or 23, I should say, is where the Longhorns go off the board. So for the first time since 1980, the Longhorns have 3 players drafted in the first round. And you guys know that was Johnny Lamb Jones to the Jets, pick 2. Bobby, you know this. Then it was Johnny. That was
so 1980.
Yep.
It would have been
Johnny Lamb Jones.
Okay, Johnny Lamb Jones was. It would have been Johnny Johnson was before that, right?
Yeah, 17. That was 17. He was the 17th pick that year. Yep. And there was one more safety.
And was it another safety?
Yeah.
Was it? It wasn't Derrick. Derrick Hatchett was like 80.
Yes, it was. Pick 23. Derrick Hatchett.
DBU, baby.
You got it.
DBU.
Yeah.
You got it. And the first pick of the draft that year, guys, was Billy Sims. Billy Sims out of Oklahoma.
Real quick on Matthew Golden. There've only since the merger, there's only been 4. He's the 4th Texas wide receiver to go in the first round. Lamb Jones, Roy Williams, Xavier Worthy, and now Matthew Golden.
But Matthew Golden
2 years in a row, too, by the way.
That is true. Good point.
That's a trend now.
The fastest player at the combine for 2 years in a row and the first round receiver 2 years in a row.
Matthew Golden had the lowest, if you go look at yards per game receiving, he had the lowest amount for a first round wide receiver since 2014.
Wow. Because they had played 16 games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, and remember it was second half of the season because the first half of the season he's not necessarily the wide receiver 1. He doesn't become that guy till Bun gets hurt. And then, like we said, it was the postseason where really he shines. And even Sark talked about it. Sark said he really did. He early on in the season, he was dealing with some little nicks and, injuries, and he really didn't master the offense in the passing game. Sark said until like later on in the season, he really started because he had just gotten there. So it could be something to be said that Matthew Golden's ceiling is higher, that once it masters a system, that he becomes a better player. Sark actually used his 40-yard dash time to really showcase that, or at least he made an example out of it, saying he doesn't necessarily think and a lot of people don't think he's a 4.29 guy, he's a 4.2 player. He doesn't play at that speed. But as I've talked about, and I think all you guys know as well, there's a training method to training for the combine and mastering the technique of certain drills.
Yeah.
And he could be a guy athletically that is really good at being able to master something after a certain amount of time. And he could have done that with the 40, and he definitely did it with the wide receiver position late in Sark's offense, because he became the guy, and he was easily the most explosive wide receiver in the country in that time span.
The other thing I like too, Rod, with him going to Green Bay is you're going to Matt LaFleur's offense, and it's from that Shanahan-McVay tree. So for whether it's how they teach the wide receiver position or the route tree or whatever it is, there should be a fairly decent amount of crossover for Golden from going to Sark's offense to going to play for Matt LaFleur.
Yep, I agree.
All right, Donovan Jackson is off the board.
Research there, but 6 first-round picks in the last 3 drafts for the Texas Longhorns. Texas had 6 first-round picks from 2007 to 2022. The last 15 years before Sark's arrival. Of course, they didn't have a draft pick in 2022, but 15 years they had 6 first-round picks in that span. None in 2022, and then the last 3, the Longhorns back to 6.
Well, we have some breaking news I just saw from ESPN. So Donovan Jackson's off the board. He's Ohio State offensive lineman. He's from Bel Air, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
5-star kid from Bel Air. The New York Giants are on the clock because the Houston Texans, as you predicted, Rod, because all the guys they were targeting are off the board. I think Matthew Golden and Donovan Jackson would be the last 2 drafted. The New York Giants, who have been trying to get up to take a quarterback, are coming up. Is it Shador or is it Jackson Dart?
Wow. Okay. What did the Texans trade to? Did they say? They say what they traded.
They didn't say. Now remember,
I will try to get that for you, Rod.
No, I'll look it up. Okay.
Houston has. Remember, there was a trade made during the day today where Houston made late day Saturday swaps with Cleveland. So Houston entered tonight without a
okay. So the Texans
without a 4th or a 5th round pick. So Houston was trying to recoup that.
Yeah.
And now they didn't get what they wanted, so they couldn't trade up, and so now they're trading back. Is it Jackson Dart or Shador Sanders?
They pick the Texans, Rod. They trade the Giants the 25 pick. They pick up 34, 99, and a 3 next year.
Damn, Cook Serio, baby. Well done.
They picked up 34 tomorrow night.
34 tomorrow night, 99 tomorrow, and then a 3 in 2026.
I'll take it, Cook Serio. Well done, baby. It's about value. Well done.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
That's good. Ooh, I like it.
So they have an early pick. They have two picks tomorrow night.
Oh,
Houston does now.
Yeah.
And remember, Houston has 2/3 as well. Houston has 2/3.
It's good. And you know what? I think you're gonna have 3 to 4 Longhorns taken in the 3rd.
Before
a big round for the Longhorns, in my opinion.
Before we get to this Shador Sanders pick,
is it Shador or Jackson Dart?
I don't know. It's gonna be. I want to say this: 10 SEC picks so far of the first 24, 8 Big Ten.
All right, 18 of the 24.
Damn. The Giants went QB, and
and that'll make 11.
It's not
Shador.
And that will make 11 in the SEC.
It's Jackson Dart.
Wow.
Wait, so when does Jalen Milroe go?
The drama. Damn. Okay.
Jalen Milroe has a plus attribute no other quarterback in this draft has.
Yeah, but that plus attribute should be at a different position.
Maybe so. Maybe so. He's not Jalen Hurts. Everybody wants to compare him to Jalen Hurts.
No, he's
certainly
not.
Jalen
Not
Hurts.
the winner that Jalen Hurts is.
I agree with that, Bobby. You're right.
Not
He's
trying
not,
to be rude.
no, I agree.
Oh man, this is going to be a big story on ESPN here. When so who had the gambling ticket? CJ, you're the gambler. The tickets that had Jackson Dart as the second quarterback drafted are going to do pretty well tonight.
Yeah, I think if you would have saw Jackson Dart go in the first round, you would have been expected to cash over 2.5 quarterbacks, which was plus 145. Not saying I have that ticket or anything, but we've only got a few more. We've only got a few more picks to let that thing go. So we'll see.
But CJ, you saw Jackson Dart. What did you think of Jackson Dart at the Senior Bowl?
I thought he looked really good at the Senior Bowl. I thought he looked really good at the Combine. I know that was a big worry going into the Indianapolis, and a couple folks that I talked to while on the trip were kind of confused, or at least wanted to see more of how he would throw to other NFL caliber wide receivers, guys that he didn't necessarily have connection or chemistry with coming into the season. What's going to be really interesting is for Jackson Dart specifically, and it was really emphasized during the John Gruden QB camp, how does he go about calling plays from the headset to his offensive line? How does he go about changing things at the line of scrimmage? Because that was one of the big things. I think it's a very simple system that they run with Lane Kiffin in terms of terminology. Of course, that's a good offense. That's an offense that puts players in positions to succeed, hence why they threw for about 700 yards or whatever against Arkansas. But point is, the vernacular is very easy, and that changes at the NFL level. And obviously we could always go back to the Gruden clip with Sims back in the day. Rod, I know we've talked about this in the past, but when it comes to repeating and just getting that play out to your offensive line, can he do that? Because look, his cadence at Ole Miss was this. Look, get up to the line and it's ball snapped. There was nothing in terms of a formation, set protection. That all came from the sideline. So we'll see what that's like for Jackson Dart, but unbelievable combine performance by him in Indianapolis. I thought he had the best arm of the day, more zip on his pass than just about anybody else. And he was right there in terms of accuracy with Quinn Ewers in terms of the short intermediate. Main difference is he could throw that ball about 65, 70 yards. Quinn Ewers, we claim, has a big arm. I haven't seen that in a few years.
Yeah,
I think the Giants reached. I think people are reaching for quarterbacks when they don't exist.
Well, the Giants had to get a quarterback, y'all.
They got nothing else.
Yeah, I get it, but that two wrongs don't make a right.
You're right.
I tell you, Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart. I
don't hate that. I mean, you got the best player available, and we'll be interested to see what they do with Kayvon Thibodeau here into the weekend. And for Rod, I mean, the Texans now with pick 34, they've got their second. They have 2 seconds and 3/3 now.
Yep,
which is what they have.
And they say the best part of this draft is there were a few elite players that were given first round grades. And then there's a lot of depth, right? That second and third round of guys who could be potential starters for you. And to me, that's your best value, right? The first round is great. It's where you find your franchise-changing players, but you are paying for that value. That is you're spending the most draft capital you have. If you can get starter caliber players in the second and third round, that is premium value because you're paying half the guaranteed money and a third of the guaranteed money for that guy for 3 to 4 years as they develop into a contributor and for a starter for you. So we're looking at it from a value standpoint. That's what Nick Caserio is looking at right now. Can I get good value out of those picks? And the Texans, they could use O-line, they could use wide receiver. It's just that those guys may not be able to help you immediately. It may have to take a little bit of development now because you're getting those guys a little bit later than at the top of the first round.
The Giants,
you guys this real quick,
guys. Another trade.
This might be Shedeur.
Atlanta traded up
to the Falcons.
You think the Falcons are going to take Shedeur?
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Yeah, I know Michael Penix is old, but damn.
I would love that, dude.
No, but Falcons traded up in place of the Rams. So
Interesting.
Oh.
But I think the Rams are kind of thinking what
Interesting.
what Rod is just saying about, because I think we just saw it, guys. I mean, the Texans, we knew coming into the draft were trying to work to go up to take either Tyler Booker or Kelvin Banks or Gray Zabel, and all those guys were off the board by 18. And then you saw the other guys with high first-round grades, Jahdae Barron, Matthew Golden. Those guys go off the board right ahead of Houston. So Houston's kind of like the Rams now. Okay, our board is, our first-round grades are gone. Let's trade back, and we'll let somebody come up to take a quarterback or whatever the reach is. So right now, the only team with 2 first-round picks so far are the Giants. Abdul Carter 3, Jackson Dart 25, and now the Falcons pick will be in. And they went defense with Michael Williams. Jalen Walker's still available, guys.
Feels like defense again to me. I feel like maybe they're trying to rebuild.
No, Jalen Walker.
The Falcons already took Jalen Walker.
Yeah, he's
I
always
somebody took Jalen. Jalen went off the board. My bad.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is. I wonder if
I
this is
could
like
be
Mike
wrong.
Green
What
from
about the Kentucky corner?
or
That's
James?
what I feel. Yeah.
That's
That's
Jared's
I feel
favorite.
like defense. Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like defense is where they're going. No
Who
doubt.
did you say, Jeff?
James Pierce from Tennessee.
Another good one.
Yeah,
I'm
that's good.
telling you now,
Load up at pass rush.
if it's another SEC guy, that will be 12 of 26.
Yeah.
With the Rams trading out of the first round, they now have had just 1 first-round selection since 2017.
Hey, F them first round picks. I remember they had the famous t-shirts, F them picks, but it wasn't F them picks, F them first round picks, because first round picks, they believe, are overvalued.
Ooh.
And there's an argument to be made. They're
Ooh.
overvalued.
Well, it's
Rob,
funny they traded the
here's
Falcons
the
because
trade. Here's the trade. Sorry, E. But the Rams give the Falcons 26 and 101 in this draft. Atlanta gets 46 and 242 in this draft, plus the Rams 1 next year.
wow.
What?
The
They
Rams,
don't like first round picks. You just said it. So what do the Rams get?
I'm
No,
sorry.
the Rams get the
Yeah,
first round
I
pick.
said that backwards. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The Rams,
they get the first round pick next year.
Falcons get 26 and 101. The Rams get 46, 242, and Atlanta's 1 next year.
Yep, they get the first round because they believe all the first round picks are gone.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. And now they have one. Now they have 2 next year.
Thank you, Matthew.
Well, and think about that for the Rams, guys, because the Rams now have 2 first-round picks next year, their own and that one. And if you're trying to replace Matthew Stafford, the quarterback class is better next year than it is this year.
Jeff, how did you know this was happening? Or did you
No, I just figured that if they were trading back in, if it had to be they don't need offense. It had to be for a pass rusher. There had to be a pass rusher there that they really liked.
James Pierce Jr.
Yeah, I wonder if Piper will say the same thing about Banks he did about for Pierce, who was expected to be the first overall pick this year coming into the draft. And, well, when you go 26th, right, that's quite a tumble. Must have been a really bad year.
Hey, CJ, we were at
CJ learning sarcasm at a young age. I love it.
I think that's a real good pick for Atlanta. I like their draft so far. Michael Williams, and now I like Jalen Walker when they went first time, but instead you get both of these guys to anchor your defense out of the SEC. But the kid Mike Green from Marshall, I mean, we've heard of some off-field stuff for him. He was a star at Mobile when we were there. Clearly, he's got some off-field stuff.
It must be the case because, look, Green would have been the guy I had higher on my board at this point, but playing in the SEC, I think, carries some weight here, especially when you've done it at 2 really productive years at Tennessee in terms of what Marshall was playing with Mike Green. But Jeff or Aaron, excuse me, I'm right there with you in terms of what I saw in Mobile, what I saw at the Combine, what we saw on tape a little bit with Mike Green. That guy has first-round quickness that I think is only matched or rivaled by that of Abdul Carter in this draft.
I want to say this, too, about the SEC Big Ten. First of all, the SEC now has, 12 of the 26? Is that right, I think? I've been counting these, 12 of 26. But they've been multiple schools: Missouri, Texas, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Alabama, right? There's been 5 or 6 different schools. The SEC is a deeper conference. The Big Ten has had 8 first-round picks. All of them are from only 3 schools. It's really the Big 3, not the Big 10. It's Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan.
Even the Yankees had a first rounder.
But you get my point, right? These kids are coming from Georgia's had a couple guys in the first round as well. So these picks from the SEC are coming from all over the place. A&M have one. The Big Ten is a very concentrated at the top conference, and that's Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan.
I agree with that.
That's why when Indiana doesn't play but one of those teams in a year and makes it to the college football playoff. I'm just going to put that out there for that.
Baltimore on the clock. They usually take really good football players. The safety from South Carolina kind of feels like their kind of pick here to me.
It's a perfect draft for Baltimore, right? Everybody overthinking it. All these good players. They're starters for you, but no elite talent. Baltimore's like, oh, I'll find a damn good football player in this mix.
I'm thinking Jihad Carter and Jihad from Alabama or the safety from South Carolina.
Yeah,
Jahdae Campbell makes a ton of sense.
That makes it. Yeah, and he's versatile, right? Baltimore Ravens love versatile chess pieces. They kind of move around on defense. Your Kyle Hamilton's guys. You can really be, you can weaponize in different ways.
I know he's not running the draft there anymore, but man, like a versatile chess piece defender from Alabama, like Jahdae Campbell is an Ozzie Newsome draft pick.
It is Ozzie Newsome's.
He's not running the draft anymore. That is staying true to form for Baltimore.
That's true.
If it's Jahdae Campbell.
The ghost of Ozzie Newsome may haunt this pick right here and pick him up. You might be right about that. Eric DeCosta's pretty damn good too, but I'm with you on that. I will say James Pearson, Jalen Walker, though, now that's a hell of a tandem on the edge, so that's crazy.
Oh, Bobby, you in the chat, they're reminding you that you left Oregon out of the Big Ten mix.
Oh, excuse me. They're one other. That's fair.
It's hard to get your head around. You're right about that.
Maybe that's where I learned my sarcasm.
Oregon is legit now. I mean, I think that's a legit conversation, but my point is,
your point stands though.
It's how do you even? I don't know. I think that's the problem right now is that the Big Ten looks like it's a really good conference, but in reality, it's just extremely top heavy. The SEC is actually a really good conference. That's my take.
That means it's not a good conference then. There are no real top to bottom good conferences then. That means
so I think the SEC is the best, but
I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm with you. I don't know if there are any good ones then. If the SEC is the standard, I don't know if there are any good ones that are top to bottom what the SEC is. Like I don't know if you get that.
I agree with that. So if the Detroit Lions get Jahdae Campbell out of this somehow, I give up.
The Ravens do.
If he fall, or the Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky.
Yeah. No, or he goes to Dan Quinn. Listen, you got three organizations in a row here that they either have a history of drafting well or they've recently transformed their front offices, Washington, Detroit, where they take really good football players and they don't give a damn about premium positions. They don't care about, this position's trending this way, that way. Like, no, we want good football players. Dan Quinn's famous for that. Detroit's GM has done a really good job of that actually in the last 3 years. And the Ravens, of course, that's what they do. So I'm with you on that. The Jahdae Campbell seems like he's going to go in the next 3 picks.
Agreed. So 2 teams have 2 picks so far through 26, and that would be Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart to the Giants, Jalen Walker and James Pierce to the Falcons. I think that's
the Ravens pick is in. It's an SEC defender. It's not Jahdae Campbell. They took Malachi Starks. But again, that's hell of a value for the back into the second round, back to the first round.
Oh my gosh!
Tried true. Good player been a good player for multiple years at Georgia in the SEC.
Big school guy.
27.
Oh my gosh! Well, you're putting him next to Kyle Hamilton. That's kind of dumb. That's kind of dumb in the back end.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just a good player. I mean, it was Malachi or Jihad or golly. That's good.
I think Malachi's a tad overrated.
Okay.
I think if he played for Missouri, he wouldn't be a first-round pick.
Fair
That's
enough.
probably fair.
Just going to say that. Like, I think he's a really good player. I think he's a tad overrated.
Hey, Rod, on the Texans side, I mean, when you see these good players go off the board and the Texans traded back, is it fair that the Texans defense is fairly well built and the best players that were left were either quarterbacks or defensive players, and they need offensive line and they need they're happy to have 2 seconds and 3/3 coming up?
Yeah, I think they're really happy with where the defense is, and kind of where DeMeco Ryans has constructed it so far. Front seven in, I think secondary. I think the secondary is ahead of schedule for them too.
They acquired C.J. Gardner-Johnson too from the Eagles to go with Jalen Petrie and Stingley and Lassiter. Yeah. They're good back there.
And Stingley's playing like an All-Pro too. So I'm with you. I think now their focus has been the offensive line. I think he's a little disappointed that they're trying to overhaul the entire culture of that room. So I think he's a little disappointed that his O-line guys didn't fall to him. So I think you could see them try to find some of those developmental projects potentially in the second round and the third round. And I also think they may try to get more weapons for CJ Stroud, even though, I mean, your wide receiver room looks really good now with Nico Collins, and with Tank Dell's dealt with injuries the last couple of years. No Stephon Diggs. They could just go and let's go get them a couple of weapons in the mid rounds for a guy like CJ Stroud. So to me, it's all about building around CJ Stroud at this point. Defense looks good. Just give CJ Stroud what he needs, because at this point, you're wondering, can you take the next step to be in that elite tier of the AFC with the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs? That's the tier you're trying to get into. And right now, you're right below that. You're right outside of that group in the AFC.
All right, so Malachi Stark's off the board.
Can I ask you guys, has there been a head-scratching pick to y'all, or is that just what happened at 12?
Remind me what happened at 12.
Tyler Booker to the Cowboys.
Oh,
that wasn't head-scratching. Cowboys like O-line, and they always take unpopular O-linemen too.
Zach Martin was unpopular back in the day.
Yeah, because they wanted Johnny Manziel. That wasn't because he was a pick. He was going to be a high pick. I'm looking at Tyler Booker as a guy who was picked about 20 picks higher than his consensus draft ranking, and a guy whose RAS score, who, again, I talk about the measurables of the combine, et cetera, was not that of a top 12 pick. On top of that, I know the offensive line wasn't great, but a guard spot just isn't, it's not something you see often in that spot. The Cowboys have so many issues that
they do.
Oh, yeah. You can't necessarily fix it in one draft, CJ. That's what Rod was talking about with the Cowboys. Their problem has not been the draft. Their problem has been the other ways to acquire players.
Yeah, they don't spend money in free agency. They think they can fix it with guys off the scrap heap.
It's like not using the portal. If you're, it's like Jerry Jones is trying to be Dabo Sweeney.
I get that. The draft recently has not been good to the Cowboys. And it was great when you were drafting Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick. You end up lucking into CeeDee Lamb. That's typically how the Cowboys win the draft, is when things fall backwards, right? Y'all mentioned Dak Prescott and teams not wanting to trade up to get a Paxton Lynch there. Look, a lot of their best draft success has been guys that they didn't originally think were going to be there, one or two. They try to have plan A. Plan A falls through. Plan B is like, oh, okay, here's the guy that's eventually going to be an all-pro. When it becomes the Cowboys thinking for themselves and using their own noodle, that's where you start to get in trouble, and you get a Taco Charlton over a TJ Watt, or you end up with a Mozzie Smith who's just figuring out how to tackle a guy for the first time in his 3-year NFL career. It was a bad pick last year with Tyler Guyton, a guy who didn't have a lot of production or really snaps at all at the tackle position at Oklahoma for just that 1 year. Now you're going back into a Tyler Booker, a position in which, again, I know offensive linemen are important, but a guard at that spot, that's the frustration for me.
Yeah,
I get it.
No, as Will said, they have been really successful hitting on first round picks. Really had like a streak of maybe 5-6 years in a row where they've done pretty good at it. But you're right, the last couple of years has not been not been kind to them, and they're so overly reliant on the draft that they got to hit on those early round draft picks because it's so hard to hit on middle round draft picks. And actually, the Cowboys do a really good job on mid round and late round draft picks too. But still, I think ultimately it's catching up to them that they only have one. They only have pretty much one way that they like to access talent, and that's pretty much through the draft. And if you miss or that class doesn't mature as quickly as you need it to, you are where the Cowboys are right now.
Yep.
So the Lions pick is in. The
Lions pick is in.
Yeah, it's going to be Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, the defensive lineman.
Okay.
So
I like that.
It's another defensive lineman that Texas faced this year. When you look at all these front seven defenders, these defensive linemen that are on the schedule, does it make you guys look any different? Put the season of the Texas offensive line in any different kind of perspective?
Yeah, where they weren't. Yeah,
No.
I mean they played some beasts. Georgia had two. Ohio State's had now another for the Buckeyes. Michigan's had two.
A&M's had one.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah, well, Georgia's had two. For sure. Three.
Arizona State getting a guy drafted soon.
Yeah. No. Cowboys had third and fourth round this year.
It was
Hey,
still
by the
too
way,
hot.
Rod, for you, just as we talk about Nick Caserio, what do you call him? Cooking Nick or Trader Nick?
Yeah.
Based on their trade this night where they traded from 25 back and they have the Giants pick at the top of the second round, Houston now has picked 34, 30, 58, 79, 89, and 99 tomorrow. So 5 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then next year, because of the Laramie Tunsil trade, they have a 1, 2 2s, 2 3s, and 2 4s.
Is that so? Because Nick Caserio knows something that I think all GMs will be wise to keep in mind as they're building their roster, that no quarterback and head coach combination have won a Super Bowl that's taken them longer than 5 years to win together. It's never happened. So there's never been a head coach quarterback duo that's come together and won their first Super Bowl outside of 5 years.
Right.
Never happened. Never. It is a 5-year window. That's what you got. And you said, what, next draft, they got a lot of picks too? Because Nick Caserio knows as soon as you find your quarterback, that's when your window starts. The clock is ticking. And that's why he knows they found C.J. Stroud as he was a rookie phenom. What was that, 2 years ago? And so now he's got about 3 more years. And if they don't win it all in 3 more years, chances are history will tell you ain't gonna win it in this league, because by then your roster construction starts to deteriorate because you got to pay all those big time players that you got.
Well, they've already paid Derek Stingley.
Yep.
One of the reasons they traded Laramie Tunsil for the draft capital from the Commanders was to start building, and now they've got 5 picks tomorrow, and they've got multiple picks next year in the draft. Because now you need cheap labor, because you're going to have to sign Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud next offseason, and so you're about to get really heavy on your cap. I kind of like it. I like what Houston's doing, and
aggressive. Be aggressive. Howie Roseman has the blueprint. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. Cowboys, that's the wrong blueprint to follow. Be aggressive. Hope is not a strategy in this league. Be aggressive.
But the Cowboys are all in, Rod. They're all in. All in on what? I'm still trying to figure out, but they're all in.
All in on what is a great question. All in on what?
Hey, spinning this back to Texas here.
Give it to me.
I'm starting to, I don't know if it's a theory or just common sense, but to win a national championship, there has to be a first-round defensive line talent on the interior for your college football team. There has to be, right? We've seen it with Alabama and all those guys. We've seen it with Georgia and all those guys. But just recently, Michigan, 2 really talented guys. Obviously, was it Mason Graham went number 5. You saw it again this year. Tyleik Williams, first-round guy for Ohio State. Teams that get close, Texas, talented overall defensive lines, especially on the edges. Alfred Collins will get drafted. Vernon Broughton will get drafted. You just missed one with Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy last year, right? You just missed winning a national championship. But you've got to have that guy, that difference maker on the interior. And look, I look at Texas being close this year. I look at Washington being close last year. Not having those guys that make a difference in the run game or that interior pass protection pressure, that makes all the world of difference. And I know that Texas facing Ohio State this year with a JTT and a Jack Sawyer off the edge was hell, right? That wasn't easy. But for a Tyleik Williams up the middle against Ohio State, look, let's not forget those first 7 possessions for Texas in that Cotton Bowl. What'd you have, about 2 or 3 first downs, right? It was pretty ugly for most of that first half. And large part of that's because there was no way that they were able to sustain a run game and move the ball that way. So Texas, I think this offseason has addressed the defensive line position, obviously with 5 guys coming in this year out of the portal. Will any of those guys be a first-round guy? We'll have to wait and see. But I have to imagine one guy in Murad Watson with a freshman All-American tag already is going to be in that conversation. Alex January, if he continues progressing as well, we'll see if Cole Bavard can become a day 2 guy in that same sentence as well. But I think that's something that, as you continue to see Texas develop its interior defensive line guys coming from Georgia, coming from Florida, if you can find that game wrecker like a Byron Murphy or T'Vondre Sweat, that's when you start to put yourself in the, okay, we're for real about this national championship conversation.
That's why you go get a Justice Terry. That's why you go get a Myron Charles as Josiah Sharma. CJ, you saying that the further removed we get from it, the more I really feel like my initial gut reaction, like the knee-jerk reaction I had after Texas lost the Sugar Bowl, I feel it even more now. If Jonathan Brooks doesn't get hurt, Texas wins the national championship in 2023. I truly believe that. Because Sark was just starting to trust Jonathan Brooks. He had a running back he trusted to to carry the football. They were starting to figure some things out on offense with Quinn coming back. We knew the defense was really good. And keep in mind, Michael Penix played the game of his life in that Sugar Bowl. You still had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to win. Mm-hmm. So that to me, you can look at it as a missed opportunity or whatever, but I just look at it in hindsight now. Like if Jonathan Brooks doesn't get hurt, I really think Texas is your 2023 national champion.
No, I think, and you remember, both your running backs had a fumble in that third quarter that were killers. I mean, Jaden Blue had a fumble and CJ Baxter had a fumble in that third quarter that, turned the ball back over to Washington and the Sugar Bowl. And who knows if you're able to win that football game. I would also say that to your point, both of y'all together, I mean, gosh, think about that. That was the year Texas had T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy together. Mm-hmm. Both guys were top 40 picks in the draft. We go back to when Georgia went back-to-back. That was, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter on the interior, to your point, CJ. Michigan now has Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham going off the board in the first round. They had Mozzie Smith a couple years ago to the Cowboys. I think your both of y'all's points are right on because you've got to win that interior. You got to win those guys up front. Now we're seeing Ohio State with Tyleik Williams and those guys in the middle. Got to have it, or else you're not probably going to win the national title right now.
Yeah, it's a back to Bobby's point about the SEC. I mean, the SEC, I still truly believe it's the best line of scrimmage league in college football. It's the ultimate line of scrimmage league. But also to Bobby's point, when you look at how top heavy the Big Ten is, Ohio State's one of those teams you got to get through. Look at Ohio State's draft tonight, and it's on both lines of scrimmage. Michigan on the defensive line, but you've got the fact that not just that they continue to make defensive tackle a priority, both in the portal and in high school recruiting. The fact that Sark and Kyle Flood started from the perspective of we're not going to cut corners on the offensive line. We're going to play the long game. We're going to recruit high school guys. We're going to develop them, and we're going to go the grassroots effort to build the offensive line. We're not going to cut any corners. That's worked out great for Texas. And we'll see how it works out this year. But it's if you don't have the horses up front, and that if you go back, the game that stood out to me, if you go back to LSU's national championship that year and you go watch their Peach Bowl win over Oklahoma, I think we can all agree, like Oklahoma had a couple of guys, Neville Gallimore, they had a couple of guys on their D-line. But you just look at like how LSU just wore on them and how Oklahoma wasn't very deep. You got to be deep and talented on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. And you got to have those guys that are these number one picks. They got to be in the fourth quarter and fresh. That goes to the depth part, Rod. You got to have those guys that you can rotate enough that when the game matters most, your best players are on the field and fresh in the fourth quarter and in this conference.
Yeah, I think Texas knows that, right? That's why when Sark first got here, they had that really young defensive tackle rotation. Jeff and I have talked about that. You had a young Kendrick Coburn, Moro Jamo, and T. Sweat and Byron Murphy, and young guys, and they were able to rotate those guys and keep them fresh, right? So that they had these really, really explosive, dynamic, impactful snaps. And that's why Texas, having 5, I think they've recruited more D tackles in the transfer portal since Sark has been here than any other position. So I think he understands that. And I've always said, go look at every great defense at Texas. They've all had great D tackle position. I call it's the Rock of Gibraltar in the middle. Look at all of them. Ours, we had one. I mean, we had Casey Hammond and Sean Rogers. Then we had Marcus Tubbs after that. You always have that really good D tackle inside. The Eagles kind of understand that too. I mean, Chris Jones has been a big part of why the Kansas City Chiefs have been able to dominate. You got to have that presence right there at the point of attack over the football. And I've been saying for a while, and you've heard me talk about this numerous times, the D tackle position, if you get the right kind, they're now a premium position. Not all of them are, but if you find the right D tackle, that's right. If you go look at the top 10 edge rushers and top 10 edge D tackles in the NFL, top 10 edge rushers and top 10 D tackles in the NFL in terms of their value and what they're being paid. In 2014, 10 years ago, the top 10 edge rushers made 44% more than the top 10 D tackles. Now, that number is only 6%. The top 10 edge rushers make 6% more than the top 10 D tackles because the NFL understands what CJ was just talking about as well. You gotta have that 3-down player right there at the point of attack. It's really, really important. So I agree, and that's why the Lions, they picked them one, a D tackle, Tyleik Williams, and they got a decent defense. By the way, Brad Holmes, really good. I'll give you a random stat about Brad Holmes, the GM of the Lions. 21% of his draft picks have become Pro Bowlers.
That's crazy.
Phenomenal stat. Freakish stat, guys.
Yeah, that's how you build a championship level team. All right, Washington, since we've been talking through the Longhorns, Josh Connerly has been picked out of Oregon, another offensive tackle. The Commanders acquire Laramie Tunsil from Houston and take Josh Connerly. They're obviously trying to protect Jaden Daniels and build around him in the Cowboys division. Buffalo with the pick in, with 2 more picks beyond that, Kansas City and Philadelphia. The last 2 picks in the draft here in our first round are on Texas football coverage. Thank you to our friends at Advanced Pain Care. Also, Von Lane and what they do for us. Great folks as we get you into this as it's end of round 1. Longhorns have had 3 players taken. Not surprising. We knew they would, but where and when? Number 9, the Saints took Kelvin Banks. Jahdae Barron goes pick number 20 to the Denver Broncos to play opposite Patrick Surtain. And what a defense that is going to be in a pick 24 or 23. Raise the roof there. There's no roof, but raise the crowd to a new level in Green Bay. Matthew Golden to the Green Bay Packers, which will be a lot of fun to watch him with Jordan Love in that offense. But guys, what so far? What have you been your as you guys talked about earlier? Eyebrow raising picks? Anything you don't like the Tyler Booker pick, CJ? It doesn't sound like for the Cowboys. Texans trading out of the first round to acquire picks for tomorrow and into round 3 tomorrow night. So 5 picks for Houston tomorrow. But anything? What stands out to you? The 2 picks for the Giants, 2 picks for the Atlanta Falcons, both on defense. Anything standing out so far?
Before we do that, Rod, are you signing off?
Yeah, let Rod say bye. He's got to go.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to sign off, guys. I apologize. I wanted to make it through the whole thing, but I got something I got to do. So
go take care of that baby.
But I want to say that I do believe, I think second round might be quiet for the longest. I feel like the third round is going to be another hype round for Texas, 3 to 4 guys. But second round, we shall see. But I think we're going to have a round just as hype as the first round. So looking forward to that. But thank you, guys. Great stuff as always. Thanks for the participation. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, CJ. Thanks, Jeff. Great stuff. Thanks, Bobby. And E, great job as always. See you guys.
Rod.
Thanks, Rod.
Later. Maxwell Harrison's the pick.
For the Bills.
Great pick. I like that. I mean, that's Jerry Hamilton's favorite corner.
Yeah, I was going to say this. The Big Ten is no longer the Big 3. It is the Big 4 now. Oregon does belong. So I was a little bit wrong of that. So of the 16 teams, they now have 4 that have first-round picks. Maxwell Harrison makes another one for the SEC. Howie
Roseman is traded up with the Chiefs, 1 pick. Howie Roseman's made a trade. They're targeting somebody.
Please don't let it be another defensive lineman.
I'm looking at my Green.
Look,
it's going to be Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. I mean, that's coming.
Look, as a Cowboys fan, I know there's a generation of Cowboys fans that Washington is the big rival. For me, the Eagles are the team that I cannot stand, and to watch them have a competent front office that makes good moves. I'm jealous. I'm hurt, and if they end up with Jihad Campbell, I may throw my phone through the TV at this point because it's.
That'll be fun though, Jeff. We'll watch it.
There's some buzz in the chat.
I'll send in a super chat if you do it.
Are the Eagles? There's some buzz in the chat. I don't know if it's in jest or not. Are the Eagles going up to take Jalen Milroe? Probably not, but that'd be wild if they did.
They'd have a backup quarterback.
They would.
Well, I mentioned this, guys, earlier, but it's funny that the two teams that played in the Super Bowl are making trades here. The Chiefs went back to one spot with the Eagles coming up. Somebody they're obviously targeting. If you go back last year, they traded up for Jalen Carter. Or 2 years ago, they traded up for Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis, his teammate at Georgia, they traded up for the year before. The year before that, they traded up for Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner from Alabama. Howie Roseman doesn't leave it to chance. As Rod says, hope not a strategy. There's somebody they want, and Kansas City obviously willing to go back for whatever reason. I'm going to go Jihad Campbell. I just think that's, they've gotten to Kobe Dean at linebacker. They re-signed the kid, the Zach Bond, who was the free agent signing. So maybe it's not linebacker. I don't know, but we'll see what Philadelphia is coming up one slot for.
The Eagles in the last 4 drafts have 8 drafted players from Georgia and Alabama combined. It's a good recipe, if you ask me.
Bobby, I'll back up your point about the balance of the SEC, just the competitiveness of it. You can go look, even the lesser teams Texas played last year, right?
Kentucky,
Mississippi State, Kentucky, Florida. Like, you watch them during warmups, and you're like, they at least got some dudes that look like they can play. I mean, it's not like all 16 teams are just bereft of talent. That's not the case. Do some have more than others? Obviously, yes, but you can go down every roster in the SEC and find NFL players. You can't say that about every other power league.
Look, Iowa State's a pretty good team, right?
Yeah.
Mississippi State looks better when they come to Austin than Iowa State does.
No question.
On the hoof. There's not saying they are, because they haven't been as a team. But if you go down and you're on the sideline, you're looking at those two teams, you would pick Mississippi State over Iowa State 9 times out of 10.
Well, and Iowa State said we playing at the top of the Big 12, and Mississippi State's at the bottom of the SEC. To your point,
yeah, and that's what I'm. But what I'm saying is, that's the difference. Really, is
that's what makes it. I think the challenge is Iowa State would not be playing at the top of the SEC with their roster.
No.
But they are in the Big 12 because they can navigate a season in the Big 12. I think that's what all y'all are saying. I mean, Steve Sarkisian, you were there, Jeff, when he said that when you see Florida get off the bus, that's going to be the best looking team you see all year. You know what I mean?
Florida under Billy Napier reminds me of Texas under Charlie Strong and Tom Herman. Like, you look at the team and you'll be like, how are you guys as bad as you are? Like, why do you just play just terribly some games? And some games you got it together. If DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt against Georgia, I don't know if they win that game, but I would have liked to have seen what it looked like for a full game with DJ Lagway at quarterback. And yes, the freaking Eagles are taking Jihad Campbell right here. Oh, God. Where's my CJ throwing the hat gif? Where is it? I need that right now.
The best advice here is just give up all hope on the Cowboys. Put all your stock into a Saturday afternoon in the fall and go apple picking for the foreseeable future on Sundays, because there's going to be no happiness there, Jeff.
It really hit me a couple weeks ago. My
by the way, at least the Mavericks still have Luka Doncic. I mean, you know what I mean?
My daughter, thank you for that, Lee. I was talking to my daughter about football, and she was talking to me about teams she likes. And I go, what about the Cowboys? She goes, no, I don't like the Cowboys. I'm like, Bug, why don't you like the Cowboys? She goes, Dad, they're literally the worst. They lose all the time. I'm like, A, she's right, and B, as a Cowboys fan, what have I done raising my child the wrong way that she's trained to believe that the Cowboys are terrible and will never win anything of consequence. So
she seems very observant. She seems very observant as a young child.
Yeah.
I was so Jahdae Campbell goes here. Look, 31 picks in. I think that makes 14 or 15 of 31 from the SEC. And 9 or 10 from the Big Ten. I mean, you talk about 2 super conferences, and you talk about a recruiting tool for other play. I mean, is there any other conference? I mean, I guess Miami had the number 1 overall pick. Colorado had the number 2 pick. Arizona had the first receiver. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
well,
they're the haves and the have-nots in this world, and SEC, Big Ten are definitely those.
I will mention some names that are still on the board that I think are interesting. Luther Burden, you would have thought would have been drafted in the first round. He's still available. But, that's pretty surprising.
He might make sense for the Chiefs. I think they got to go offensive line if they think. I think Chiefs go offensive line or defensive tackle. Josh Simmons, I've mentioned him.
Out of Ohio State.
He might make a lot of sense for the Chiefs right here. Might make a lot of sense.
Right now, Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network. I'm watching NFL Network. I usually watch that over ESPN. Yep. Daniel Jeremiah, Jahdae Campbell's his 12th rated player, and they're about to take him at 31. I mean, come on. That's
the Cowboys took at 12 a player that was ranked 32.
Tyler Booker, yeah. Oh man, that is.
There's the difference in the 2 organizations, right?
And Roseman was willing to give up picks to move up 1 spot to do that.
Well, remember the Eagles. We talked about this a lot, but the Eagles have 20 picks, or they had 20 picks over the next 2 drafts. So giving up a 5th round pick to move up 1 spot with Kansas City to make sure nobody else traded into that spot to get the 12th best player on the board potentially for some teams, that's pretty good. Typically what they do.
Rappaport just said that the Eagles almost traded with the Chargers up at, I believe, 22 to make this exact pick. Instead, they do it just 1 pick further up. With the Chiefs and get the same guy that they wanted all along. It's not fair.
CJ, I'm kind of with you though. I see what the Cowboys are trying to do. You're trying to recreate that Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick O-line with your last 3 picks, but it just seems like they're forcing it a little bit. Like these picks are very boom or bust with all 3, with Tyler Smith, Tyler Guyton, and Tyler Booker. It feels very boom, not a very, very low floor, high ceiling.
Yeah, well, Tyron Smith and Zach Martin are going to the Hall of Fame, so that's difficult. But you're right. I mean, Cooper Beebe, I think, might end up being the best guy out of all those guys.
You're right. Cooper Beebe's a really good player. Really
he is very solid player. And then I like you weren't with us when with Jerry, but Jerry Hamilton, CJ loves Tyler Booker. He thinks he's just a high character, he's one of those guys that you want in your locker room. But at the same time, he didn't test very well at the combine. He wasn't ultra athletic, and to go 12 overall with some of those athletic traits is going to lead Cowboys fans to wonder who was still on the board. And now the Eagles end up with Jahdae Campbell. The Commanders just took Josh Connerly out of Oregon, who was, I think, a pretty damn good player. But either way, Cowboys end up with Tyler Booker in round 1. Texans did not make a pick. What are the Chiefs doing here, guys? There's some people that think they are kind of infatuated with Travion Henderson, running back Ohio State. They've got.
I think Rashee Rice coming back next year should certainly help that passing game. Of course, with Xavier Worthy going into year 2, I think it's too early for a tight end, specifically given what's still on the board for them. They need to go figure out that offensive line. If they want to win a championship and they play the Eagles again, look, why is it going to be any different than what we just saw a few months ago with the Eagles pummeling Patrick Mahomes for what is about 6-7 sacks? Matthew, you help me out. I know you go to sleep looking at the box score every night, but they have to figure out some help for Patrick Mahomes on that offensive line. I would look there first, and then maybe I think, again, I think Alfred Collins makes sense in the second or third round to help kind of leave, that Chris Jones era into a brighter, defensive line era, because his days are coming up. Is it too early at 32? We'll see. Is there a guy on the board? We'll see. But offensive line to me makes the most sense with your first pick here.
I'm trying to look and see what's available.
I'm with you. I'd be Kansas City taking a referee here. Yes,
that's good.
Yeah, but Luther Burden too good to pass up here?
No.
I think it has to. It almost has to be Josh Simmons. I think you've got to go offensive line.
I think you're right.
Because in fairness, against the Eagles, they were playing with their left guard at left tackle.
Yeah, and he's now a Chicago Bear as well. So
I know. But my point is, look, the Chiefs won a couple Super Bowls in a row. It's not like, it's not like, and they were back again this year.
Yeah.
They get the right piece. I think it's going to be offensive line. I would assume. And if it's not offensive,
and the only reason I say running back here, guys, it's a deep draft, I know, but one of the reasons that they couldn't block the Eagles is they didn't even try to run the ball last year. They never would hand the ball off. It's like, at some point you got to have a feature back that can, Patrick Mahomes can lean on. That helps your running game. I don't know. The
last time they took a running back though late in the first round was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that
did not pan out.
Yeah,
Chiefs pick is in. It's you want to spoil it or no?
Spoil it.
It's Josh Simmons. They're going online.
Yeah, well, good pick.
By the way, Bobby, that
makes 4 for Ohio State, right?
26 of the 32 first-round picks are either from the Big Ten or the SEC.
26 of 32, so that's 6 non. So that makes it Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, the top 2. I'm trying to think of the ones that aren't.
McMillan,
Ashton Jeanty, Ted McMillan, Gray Zabel.
Yep.
Which is
and Hampton, the running back.
Yep.
Yeah,
correct.
Right, so those are the 6. 2 backs. Yeah, okay. The rest is SEC Big Ten.
I think that's a good pick for the Chiefs.
15 from the SEC, 11 from the Big Ten, 2 from the ACC, 2 from the Big 12, 1 from the Mountain West, and 1 from FCS.
All right, guys. Cleveland on the board. We'll wrap this thing up on it. It's been a good run here for 3.5 hours of getting you through round 1. Longhorns have had 3 players drafted.
Hell yeah.
Cowboys took Tyler Booker. They've got Tyron. They took Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, now Tyler Booker. They're loading up on Tylers on their offensive line.
The wall of Tyler.
Give me all the Tylers. Texans trade back. They've got the 2nd pick tomorrow night. The Giants pick at 34. Cleveland will go 1. Houston will go 2 tomorrow night. And they also added another 3rd round pick. So Houston with 2 tomorrow, 3 on round 2s, or round 3, I should say. Cowboys will go pick 12 tomorrow. But guys, what do we think tomorrow as far as Longhorns? Next one, 3 went in the top 25 as we thought. But who's the next Longhorn?
I think Alfred Collins.
Yeah, I think if it's going to be in round 2, I think Alfred Collins. 34 to Houston is too early for him, but I think the Texans are coming out of tomorrow with a Longhorn on their roster. I just think you send your GM and your head coach to the pro day, and they've been really familiar with, they were a pretty regular presence at games this year. I think I think Alfred Collins is a Houston Texan by the end of tomorrow, by the close of business tomorrow.
I'm going to go a different direction. I think Andrew Makuba is going to go. I think he'll be the first guy. I know that there's obviously size concerns with him going this early in the draft. But again, every draft, I'm reminded of the same thing, and I never think of it going in. These teams like who they like, evidenced by the Cowboys at 12, evidenced by the Giants trading back in to get Jackson Dart. These guys like who they like, and I think you're going to turn on Andrew Makuba's film and see a lot of NFL teams saying, I would love to have him on my team. And plus, you're not dealing with any injury concerns like you are with an Alfred Collins, right? You're not dealing with any off-field issues like you are with Isaiah Bond. Andrew Makuba's a guy that's going to come in and work and play hard football. Safety, not necessarily a premier position, but that tape doesn't lie, and it's not a great DB draft outside of Malachi Starks, who just went in the first round tonight. So I'm going to rock with Andrew Makuba as the first Longhorn taken in day 2.
Agreed. Bobby, you think it's Collins tomorrow?
I do.
Do we think Quinn Ewers gets drafted tomorrow in rounds 2 or 3?
Quinn Ewers? No. I think Ewers going to go 5th, 6th round.
Okay.
That's my general thought right now. I think that what's hurting Quinn right now is he doesn't have a strength that people are looking to and say, hey, this guy can do this better than anybody.
Yep.
Throwing the underneath ball or throwing the ball to the flat is not enough of a strength. Like to me, Quinn Ewers is a better quarterback than Jalen Milroe, but Jalen Milroe has a strength that somebody can play to and use adequately as a backup quarterback.
So there's going to be a team, Bobby. Somebody's going to take Tyler Shuck before Quinn Ewers in this draft, and it's going to drive me insane because it's not so much I think Quinn is better. It's just, what could you have seen from Tyler Shuck in the 9 years he played college football make you believe he's worthy of a top 100 pick?
I don't disagree with that. I'm not high. I didn't like the Giants. You want to talk about bad picks? I thought Jackson Dart in the first round is a bad pick. I mean, when Jerry was on with us, he talked about what he did against Georgia or whatever. Not Georgia. What was the
Florida? It was Florida game.
It was just horrible. I mean, he's not a first round quarterback in my opinion. I think they reached, and so I do think that Andrew Makuba is a better football player than Alfred Collins. To CJ's point, I think Alfred Collins will likely go higher because I think it's more of a premium position.
Yeah,
plus, I do think that I like Alfred Collins's trajectory to be almost like a Charles Omenihu type, where he's still growing, he's still getting. I mean, remember he had shoulder issues his first year, so he had to sit out and didn't get much weight on him. He's just now really getting his body. I mean, Alfred Collins is going to look different in 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's my take on.
I'll leave this.
When does it start tomorrow? By the way, for everybody, do we have the time on that?
6
tomorrow night.
6 tomorrow night with Cleveland on the clock.
Okay.
I'll leave this with Texans fans. Luther Burden makes a lot of sense. 4'1", 6 foot, 204. You thought maybe Matthew Golden at 25 was going to be there for you. You trade down. Luther Burden still available for you. You're going to be dealing with an injury to Tank Dell. You got to find someone, Nico Collins. I love that idea for the Texans, and I hate that I say that because I want nice things too.
That's a good point. I like that call, CJ.
I do too. I like that a lot. And remember, Houston and Cleveland traded down. So Cleveland has the first pick, but they have an extra pick. So does Houston after trading back from 25.
The one Longhorn I'm interested to see if he goes tomorrow is Cam Williams. Probably not because the knee, he didn't get to do hardly anything during the pre-draft process. But, I mean, at this point, I think this first run of O-linemen's pretty picked over. So if there's another run on offensive lineman, it just depends on where teams have him slotted. I think he's more of a 4th round, maybe a 5th rounder, but who knows? Maybe he goes at the back end of the 3rd. And for the Cowboys fans in the chat, because I see a lot of Cowboys chatter, just get your head right for it. The 2nd round pick, I've been convinced, is the one where Will McClay and Stephen Jones just tell Jerry, all right, this is your one pick. You can do with it what you want, which is usually why the Cowboys have terrible 2nd round picks. So just prepare yourself for it tomorrow.
Well, Shedeur Sanders is still available. So just saying that.
Oh, my goodness. And I want to add this to Cam Williams, play him at guard for a year.
Yeah, agreed.
I'd stash him at guard and play him at guard for a year or two, and hopefully you end up with an elite right tackle.
Yeah, he's only a baby. He's still growing in. All right, guys, that's been fun. A lot of fun tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for participating. Rod, and thank you to Derrick Johnson, who joined us early on. That was a lot of fun. Talking to DJ, who was the 15th pick in the draft 20 years ago for the Kansas City Chiefs. That worked out pretty good for that organization. But guys, CJ, Jeff, Bobby, Rod, and Jerry before it. Fun stuff, as usual, on the On Texas Football Channel. Coffee and Football tomorrow at 8, Bob?
Yep, 8:15. And Aaron, I want to say thank you to you.
Yes, thank
all of us as well. You did a magnificent job of hosting, as well as our producer, Matt Hutchison, behind the scenes. But thank you, Aaron, for doing this. Second year in a row. It's now a tradition, Aaron.
Hey, man. Well, three Longhorns in the top 23. Let's keep doing it. I like it. Could be more next year. We'll see with the conversation. I'll be back in late April. All right, guys, have a great night. And 8:15 tomorrow with Coffee and Football. 3 Longhorns in the first 23. Number 9 for Kelvin Banks. Number 20 for Jahdae Barron. Number 23 for Matthew Golden to the Green Bay Packers. And excited about that. That'll be more of that conversation tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
See you guys. Welcome.